This is Up for Debate presents Shaken, Not Stirred, 6 Decades of James Bond in Film. Tonight, episode number 147, recorded May 23rd, 2019. Chapter 8, Matt and Sean in The Definitive Bond Rankings. Hello everybody, welcome to this, our 8th chapter of this Up for Debate presents. I am Sean Jennings, joined as always by a man whose audition tape to play Bond must have gotten lost in the mail. It's Mr. Matt Mariani.
Yeah, they told me they'd give me a call back, but
You're still waiting.
no, I got beaten out by that Lazenby fellow.
They always go with him. I thought you would have been better.
It's okay. I'm sure that there'll be other moments. There'll be other Bonds out there.
I think, if I remember correctly, wasn't the comment that you were too nice to play Bond? You were too approachable?
I think that was the word.
Yeah.
To every man is a very nice way of saying too just boring, too crappy. Yeah.
But I did appreciate when they offered you a smaller role to be a henchman killed by Bond in the first 3 minutes of the movie. You said no.
I
You
did.
wanted more.
I would have been honored by that, but SAG and all that.
It just wasn't worth it, man. You would have had to gone through the union and,
It's too much of a process, man. They make it too hard on us actors, us aspiring actors.
Yes, Matt. Thank goodness you have a backup career in podcasting. We are here tonight. Matt, we have somehow, I was thinking about it today. I still cannot believe we watched 25 movies in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
I have not watched 25 movies in, no joke, the last 5 years.
Oh yeah, this was way beyond anything that a larger scope that I ever thought we were gonna accomplish. And I guess when I suggested the idea, I didn't really put the whole we're gonna be watching these movies and we have to set actual time out of our actual lives to do that part. Just guess I never thought of that part, but
it's a good lesson for us to learn.
Yeah, I like to think of it as an adventure that we went on, and we took our fans with us, and hopefully we exposed you to another new horizon. Right, this is another feather in your cap.
I thought this was great. Right? I think I've talked before on the show many times about my general disinterest in movies as a whole, but I do think this did give me being able to see the Bonds throughout the years. I think this has given me a better appreciation for cinema throughout the years and how much I enjoy about seeing films change, what I think makes me generally apathetic towards movies today, because it's a lot of the same. But if you look at movies, I kind of like when we talked about Star Wars on the show, I watched Star Wars for the first time, kind of the same idea.
Right.
So I think that was exciting for me.
Yeah. See, we're exploring new horizons here.
That's what I like about the show, trying new things.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a lot to talk about today.
Yes, no more movies. We've seen them
all. Pretty big show. We've watched all of the James Bonds. There are no more Bonds left to watch.
We've done it. But now we have to get to the part in the series where we give our wildly uninformed, barely completed thoughts on these movies. And Matt, we're going to do some serious ranking here. I mean, this isn't just a simple like-dislike. You're going to have to put your money where your mouth is and really decide what is better and what is worse.
Oh, no. I feel like I'm about to take an exam here.
Well, it's quite honestly a no-win situation, because even as I was ranking all of my stuff, I was like, I rearranged these lists 20 times from when I wrote them to now.
Yeah, it's
hard to decide. And there's just so much to choose from.
Yeah. There's a lot of categories. There's a lot of things to consider. I think there are different ways and different methods of ranking, and we'll get into all of that. I'm pretty excited to jump in.
Yeah, where do you want to start, Matt?
I think you said that you did extensive note taking and research, so I want to go ahead and I'll defer to you.
Oh, that's
where
very
do you want
sweet.
to begin?
Let's start with, so on the list of things that I ranked, and we talked about this last week, the villains plans, theme songs, Bond girls, gadgets, the movies themselves, the actors. We're going to get through all of that. Why don't we start with sort of the broadest category? I didn't actually rank these. I just noted some gadgets.
Oh, okay. All
Bond
right.
films known, Q, of course, the quartermaster and his lab coming up with some zany gadgets. I highly recommend anyone who's a fan of James Bond going to the Wikipedia page list of James Bond gadgets, only because not only do they list the gadgets he uses, but they also list the gadgets the villain uses, and even like the gadgets that are like background jokes when they're in those Q scenes in the lab and like some crazy that they even had in there. My favorite line was it was like sandwich. And it's like Bond mistakes Q's sandwich, and like that was actually listed as a gadget. So it's a funny it's a
Nice.
funny article.
Is this the real Wikipedia or like the
No, the
Bondpedia?
real Wikipedia. Just Google list of James Bond gadgets, and you'll find it. It was very indispensable to me putting this list together. Matt, notable gadgets for you. Any immediately come to mind?
Well, besides the sandwich, of course.
Oh, of course.
Um, I think we can definitely start out with the well, it seems to be I think a very like one of the most iconic modern Bond gadgets, the laser watch from
Oh,
GoldenEye.
sure.
How about there? How about we start there?
I mean, the watch overall. I mean, it's probably the most consistent part of Bond's gadget arsenal, movie to movie.
I think when you yeah when you think Bond, especially in a more modern context, you think about the watch. You think about the cool tricks that the watch can do. Laser watch. It's a magnetic watch.
It's a
What
homing
else?
beacon.
Homing
It's got
beacon.
a zip line thing that shoots out of it in one of them. I
Right.
think my personal
Grapple.
favorite was it was the beginning. What's the Moore movie where he skis at the beginning?
That was The Spy Who Loved Me, I believe.
Yes, when he's in the ski lodge with a sexy lady at the very beginning, his watch prints out a message. Like literally prints a slip of paper out of the
Yeah.
watch, which I was like, that's so dumb because that's not how it works. But I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That is like one of those like old timey store calculator things where it has like the rolly paper.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it was basically like a label printer. It was kind of fantastic.
Right. Yeah. The watch is a pretty powerful gadget. It reminds me a lot of another Bond gadget. Are we done talking about the watch, or
Yeah, we'll just keep rolling.
well, okay? I think there's another Bond gadget that I would tie it very close with, and that's the attaché
There you
case
go. Yeah.
from Goldfinger. The attaché case. Um, is it? Does it make it? Is it in From Russia with Love as well?
I was just
Trying to think.
thinking
Or was it
about
introduced? I think it was introduced in Goldfinger.
that. You know what? I have
They
my notes
probably had a
here.
very similar gadget in From Russia with Love, but
I have it listed under From Russia with Love.
yeah, okay. So the attaché case, another extremely iconic gadget of Bond. It was very
Arguably
very
the
popular.
first.
Yeah, arguably the very first gadget that he used. It was a popular toy in the 1960s. A lot of kids wanted Bond's attaché case because it had little compartments in it. It had some kind of code on it that it was like similar to the watch where it was a homing beacon. I think a lot of little neat things that went into that attaché case. But I link it to the watch because it just seems to be like one of the first things you think of when you think of like gadgets Bond can use.
I mean, outside of the Walter PPK, I mean, that's the very original.
Right. Classic Bond. When you break Bond's gadgets down, it's either like something like a tool he uses or a vehicle, right? Like a vehicle
Yes, a lot of vehicles. I have on my list here the jetpack from Thunderball, which is
Yeah.
pretty fun, and the little Nelly gyrocopter from You Only Live Twice, which was an exciting action scene.
Yeah. The ejector seat from the Aston Martin in Goldfinger.
And you got to
Little
give
classic.
it up for the Lotus Esprit submarine car from The Spy Who Loved Me. A great
Yes.
toy as well.
Mhm.
Good looking car.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. It's interesting how I guess they kind of shied away from the car gadgets in the more modern Bond, right? He just would drive a very cool car, but not so much like a car that could do stuff. It was just a sleek, like nice looking car. I'm talking about the more like the very modern,
Yeah.
like Bond and Craig. I mean, I'm sorry, the Brosnan and Craig.
I'm trying. Well, Brosnan, I would argue, actually had some of the best cars because he had the cell phone remote controlled car from Tomorrow Never Dies, which is
Yeah.
still one of my favorite. I love that scene, and of course, the invisible car from Die Another Day. Arguably one of his dumbest gadgets.
Yes,
in the history
I was
of the
going to say
franchise.
most problematic gadget, maybe. Most laughable gadget, maybe.
Well, I've got a few others in my list that are equally as laughable, but I'll circle back to that. In terms of the car, I am trying to think in my head why there aren't as many iconic cars in the later movies. What's the reason? And my immediate thoughts are two things, which is one, they just don't do a lot of traditional car chases in the Craig Bond movies. Because I think that was done a lot in the earlier movies. It's not as interesting or sexy as some of these bigger action sequences with planes and trucks and explosions. But also part of it, I wonder if it has to do with the idea that I know they had an issue with, was it Casino Royale, which had that great 7-time car flip. They had an issue because the companies that put out these cars, like Lotus and some of these high-end Aston Martin, these cars are usually development cars. You can never actually... The Lotus Spirit, you could actually buy. It was a real car. But a lot of these they used in the later movies, they had issues because they were development cars, and then they wouldn't even end up actually selling it. And I just wonder if it's become too complicated and expensive. Because they went through like 20-plus Aston Martins on Casino Royale. So I wonder if it's a cost thing, too.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it is huge marketing, but you got to weigh the cost of like destroying the car. I wonder if they also have problems now with, like the destruction of the cars themselves. Like, I know that a lot of racing video games, like Gran Turismo and stuff like that, have a lot of companies will like pull like. I think that's the whole purpose of I think it's Gran Turismo where like your car can't get like damaged.
Sure.
Because it like portrays like the car is breakable, and if you associate in your mind that car with getting smashed up and cracked up and stuff, you're not going to buy one maybe.
Yeah, well,
maybe it has something to do with that.
You think about the car chase in Spectre, that car never actually gets damaged. It lands in the river, but at no point is it ever actually crashed into.
Right. It doesn't get sawed in half like the one in World Is Not Enough. Right.
with the Buzzsaw helicopter, which was a great gadget.
Yes. Not a gadget that Bond uses, but
I find it hard to believe that's a real thing in reality, that Buzzsaw helicopter.
I remember even when I watched the movie the first time thinking like that helicopter is only in the movie so Bond has something to fight. So like why else is it in the movie? Like they're at a caviar plant, right? What do they need to saw? They use caviar.
Well, and I believe, wasn't it introduced earlier in the movie at a logging site where they were removing trees and that was the point of it?
Yeah.
But it's like, that seems like a bad, you're going to cut the tree in half vertically? Like, how does that even help?
And how would the helicopter be able to get close enough to the tree without having to worry about like getting clipped by the falling tree? Yeah.
That is
I don't think that's a real thing. I'm not buying it, but I think it's really literally just there so Bond can fight, has something to fight.
You can say that about a lot of stuff in these Bond movies. It's like when Q goes through the gadgets and you're like, oh, these are the ones you'll use later in the movie. Right. I would love to know what gadgets he got and never used.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would love to have had at least one gadget that he gets, and then in the end he's like, oh, I never used it. Like I forgot about this.
He just
and then
returns
he like throws it away.
Yeah.
Or just gives it back to him. He's like, sorry, never came up. Like I literally didn't have an occasion to use this one. They almost had that. I feel like with the I think we talked about this while we were doing these episodes. Both of them were pen gadgets.
A lot of pen gadgets.
The Never Say Never Again, when he uses the pen to kill the villain lady, in the dumbest way, she wants him to write like a love letter before she kills him, and then he blows her up with the exploding pen because he's gonna write the note on the paper she somehow has in her pocket. And then the other pen from GoldenEye.
Which I like that pen.
Which was, I think they worked that in much better
it's a good scene.
than the other pen. It was a good scene, but I do genuinely believe that a writer thought about it in reverse, which is like instead of saying like, here's the scene where we need a cool gadget. Let's like devise a gadget to fit in this scene. It was more like this pen idea is really cool. Let's see where we can fit it in the movie.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, this guy's a dork. He probably clicks pens a lot. So let's like, but it worked. It did. It was just a kind of a backwards thought process, I thought.
A couple other great gadgets that I had in my list. We've talked about most of them. The identigraph from Your Eyes Only, that the giant computer room that makes those terrible drawn faces from Bond's memory.
Yes.
I thought that was very silly.
Yep, very, very of the times.
Um,
And then really, the drawings were like horrific.
well, I feel like a sketch artist could, in 45
Right.
minutes, could have done a better job.
Yes.
And you just scan it into the computer. Of course, the Solex agitator.
The Solex, maybe the best named gadget.
It's great. And it could be the best gadget because we literally never see it really do anything. And they never really properly explain what it does.
No, it's very much just a MacGuffin.
A perfect MacGuffin.
It's a MacGuffin, something, sunlight, sun energy, whatever. Bond needs it. That's like the main thing. He needs to get it. The villain's got it. He needs to get it from him, or the world is at stake.
And of course I want to mention the glove box health kit from Casino Royale, which actually I think is one of the more practical gadgets that Bond's ever been given.
Yeah,
and it works well.
Yeah, that was an alright gadget.
Now I have a lot of bad gadgets. If you've got any other good ones.
No, no, go for it. I mean, will we consider Oddjob's hat a gadget?
Well, in my list,
cool.
I have Oddjob's hat. I have Goldfinger's laser that he almost cuts Bond in half with, which is neat.
I'd say that's iconic, but I don't know if that was like a cool gadget. It's a laser that cuts things, but it was certainly very iconic. Yeah.
What about the garrote chair from The World Is Not Enough that Bond's in at the end, and she almost kills him in? Or am I pushing the limits?
Yeah, I think that's it's an interesting one, but we might be getting too far into the universe here.
Which is a better gadget, Oddjob's hat or Jaws' teeth?
Oddjob's hat, because if you ever played GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64, Oddjob's hat is literally an instant kill, and it's cheap, and that's why nobody ever is allowed to play as Oddjob, because it's cheating.
I'm going to agree with you, but only because you can take the hat off. I don't think those teeth come out.
No, I don't think they come out either. And I think that they never properly explain his origin, right? They're like, why does he have those teeth? Like, he's just a dude with, like, a really tall dude with metal teeth. I think that if they should have leveled the playing field, and they should have, because Jaws is also a playable character in GoldenEye. And they should have given him the teeth as a weapon. Then you could use that instead of being unarmed. You could bite people. Yeah, you got to get really close to them. Mm-hmm. And the Baron Samedi is in the game too. They could have given him like a snake who runs around and bites people with the snake.
I did have on my list here I don't remember the name of the villain, but the saw on a yo-yo from Octopussy. That was.
Oh sure.
That was weird.
That was neat.
Didn't understand that.
I think yo-yos were getting to be really popular.
That's true.
They've been really popular, and they were an established toy. They thought maybe they could sell a bunch of them. Maybe. I don't know. But I think that is kind of clever. Like having that as a weapon. I think it is.
But wouldn't just a gun be better?
Well, who would have thought, like, oh, this yo-yo can be a weapon? I don't know. Like there's not a lot of movies that have that.
Well, but again, just like shoot James Bond with a gun. I admittedly it wasn't for the show, but I found out all the Austin Powers movies are on Netflix, and so I started rewatching some of them. Which, oddly enough, I thought some scenes were better than I remembered, and some scenes were worse than I remembered. But one of my favorite bits is when Seth Green as Dr. Evil's son is like, they're going to and now I'll leave you up on this platform. I'm sure you'll die. We're going to close the door. And Seth Green goes, why don't I just go to my room and get a gun and we can shoot him together? Like, why are you waiting? Yeah. Like, I it's right over there. I'll just go get the gun and we can just shoot him. And I'm like, very clever. Very good.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Right. I'm gonna leave you on this this extremely slow moving platform.
Yeah, and not watch you die.
And not when
just
close
assume
the
it was
door.
done.
Just assume that it was taken care of. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But we can just shoot him. I go.
Very true. Best. I mean, the classic case of that was the Goldfinger. Do you expect me to talk? No, I expect you to die. But I think that probably happened in almost every Bond film. The slow.
Oh, I wrote more than once in my notes. How does Bond keep staying alive? I mean, it's frankly frustrating. Some of my bad gadgets.
Yeah.
Include the fake nipple from Man with the Golden Gun, which I'm calling a gadget, even though
you're gonna call. Yeah, I mean, Q literally issues it to him, so I think that is a gadget and a bad one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work. It's one of the only gadgets that like totally fails. Because he has it, and then they all know it's him. They all know it's Bond, but in order to lure him into the trap, they want to go. They go along and pretend like they think he's Scaramanga.
Yep. What a dumb idea. That movie sucks.
Very dumb.
I have two from Diamonds Are Forever, and you might argue they're not gadgets, but technically Wikipedia calls them gadgets, and I thought they were too funny to not include on this list. But La Bombay Surprise, the cake.
Is that the cake? I was going to say the exploding
Mr.
cake.
Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd and their exploding cake.
Okay.
Technically a gadget, I guess. And then also in the movie, the when it's the cassette tape that's running the laser, and Bond tries to swap it out with the world's greatest marching band cassette tape.
That's a gadget?
Well, according to Wikipedia, but I read it, I'm like, that's funny. So I had to include it. Sorry.
Okay. That was pretty funny. I enjoyed the part where he switches it and then
she switches it back.
She switches it right back.
Dumb.
Yeah.
I also have to crap on Smart Blood from Spectre, which is just dumb.
Yeah. Smart Blood
nanoparticles and other.
Yeah, but that was that's a big science fiction-y trope.
I know, but they're not.
It's not very Bond.
But if you look at all the Bond gadgets, at least they're like somewhat based in a plausible reality. Like you could build a car that turns into a submarine.
Sean, there's literally a Bond movie where they confirm that magic and voodoo is real.
We're gonna circle back to that. We're gonna circle back to that. The one, and then voodoo magic.
Magic is real, and it's like implied. Like, wait, you think this is a real thing? Like,
I'm still mad about that.
In the Bond universe, it's a real thing.
I'm still mad about that. That reminds me. Did I ever tell you my Lego movie theory? This is so off topic.
No, go. What is it?
There's a single moment in that movie that ruins it from being a perfect movie for me. I love that movie. I think it's a really solid film. And if anyone hasn't seen it, sorry, I guess it's a spoiler alert. But, towards the end of the movie, when they cross into the real world and you realize it's the kid sort of imagining the situation, and Will Ferrell comes in as the dad, which is neat.
Oh, yeah, with the Craggle?
Yeah, and you're like, oh, this whole time it was in the kid's head. It's kind of a beautiful moment. You're like, oh, these characters are really representing how he feels, and you start to make the connection. You're like, oh, this is really neat. And then there's a moment where Emmett is up on the workbench.
Oh, he falls off the table.
But he moves of his own free will. The kid doesn't move him. Emmett's like, oh, I gotta try. And then the Lego figure moves on its own, which means it's not in the kid's head. That means he's alive in reality. He moves without anyone touching him.
Maybe it's like a Toy Story situation where he is only supposed to move when the kid's not around.
If they had said these toys are real, I would have been fine with that. But you spend the entire movie setting up the fact that it's only in the kid's head. And then to blow it with that one moment infuriates me to no end. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, and it was unnecessary too.
Yes, you totally could have written around that. And then what a beautiful movie that would have been. Where it's like this big world, this awesome world was created in this kid's head, and he gets together with Will Ferrell at the end, and everyone's happy.
Right, because he wants to keep everything in place. He doesn't want to Will Ferrell doesn't want to have the Legos.
He wants to glue everything down and
have
no
essentially
imagination.
A model.
Yeah.
Right.
And the kid wants to create crazy things.
There was a lot of potential with that idea. Like, Will Ferrell could have wanted it that way because of a traumatic experience where he wanted things to be frozen exactly as they were so he could go back and look at it. But the kid wants to be, they're toys. Yeah. He wants to play with them. Yeah. No, that was. I agree with you. Amazing movie. Love that
I'm
movie.
still
Never
mad at
really
that movie.
thought. Didn't give that enough. I don't think I gave that enough thought. And now that I did, I'm sorry that I did
Our theme
because
song comes from that movie.
it does. Our theme song originates from the Lego
I
Movie.
definitely got the rights for that.
Yep.
All right,
Have you
Matt.
seen the sequel yet? Have you seen
I
Lego
have
Movie
not.
2?
No.
I haven't
I
either.
think
But
that's got to be one of the like biggest first movies and least interesting second, like that nobody cared about movies.
yeah,
Of course, they
yeah, I
waited
heard
like
it was still
5 years
good.
between them, which
Well,
is
they also
crazy.
made the Ninjago
And the
movie. They
Batman,
made
Lego
the
Batman.
Lego Batman movie,
Yeah,
which I never saw any of those. I
I
heard
saw
the
like the
Ninjago movie was
first.
bad.
I saw the first third of the Batman movie and did not enjoy it.
Mm. Yeah, I think that the character works as a
Well, it's not even that.
side
It
thing.
it just seemed to me like at least in the first third of the movie that they had enough material, good material for like a 45-minute movie and had to stretch it so long to fill a 90 minutes or whatever that it just felt very light. Like there really wasn't anything to it.
Yeah.
We're so off topic, Matt.
But anyway, does James Bond appear in the Lego Movie at all? I want to say he
You know,
does briefly.
maybe that's a good question. Although he's awfully similar to like a Bruce Wayne type.
Yeah, maybe it is Bruce Wayne. I'm thinking of like somebody in a tux, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's a good
A little
question.
Lego piece.
I,
But
I
yeah,
don't think they do a lot because I can't recall seeing James Bond in a lot of stuff where you'd see licensed character. I don't know how much they license him out.
it's probably very difficult.
Well, I
And
know the
very,
rights
very
are a whole
tricky.
thing.
It's a
And
mess. Yeah, it's a quagmire.
I don't
So,
think we ever talked about my favorite Bond, one of my favorite Bond fun facts, which is to get the rights to, I believe it was Spectre and Thunderball and that whole issue to finally clear it up, to get the movie rights. Or no, I'm sorry, to get the Casino Royale movie rights back, because that was the other book that was sort of owned separately.
yes.
To get the movie rights back, MGM traded movies with Sony. So Sony gave MGM the rights to Casino Royale. Do you know what movie MGM gave Sony? What rights?
I used to know this. I swear I read this somewhere. Wow.
I'll just cut right to the chase. You got to
Yeah.
think right around that early 2000s time, right? Spider-Man.
Lord of the Okay, Spider-Man. Okay. I wasn't going to get that. All right. I thought I had it.
I would argue
Spider-Man. Okay.
not a good trade.
So terrible trade, really.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, not a great trade at all.
No.
Not a great trade at all.
Uh,
But so what other gadgets? What other
That's my
bad
list.
gadgets?
That's
it.
we covered basically everything. I mean, there's
Okay.
a lot of kind of generic stuff, but
How about the X-ray glasses from World Is Not Enough?
oh sure, or the X-ray desk from You Only Live Twice.
Yeah. I don't remember that one.
That
X-ray desk?
Yeah, where he had where Bond visited the headquarters of the Japanese company, and Bond had his briefcase, or it was in his coat, and the desk had an X-ray machine on it, so it could. Okay, anyway, very unmemorable.
Yeah. How about I mean, like, if we're on this train, could you count the massage machine from the beginning of Thunderball as a gadget?
Oh, the spinal torsion machine.
Spinal
I think it's
torsion
called.
machine? Yeah.
Yes,
Tries to kill Bond.
awesome.
The laser guns from Moonraker.
Yeah, those
Very
are pretty
cool.
cool. Ahead of their time. Never came back for some reason. Not sure why.
No.
They developed that technology and then just forgot about it.
Because they wanted to compete with Star Wars, and then I think they realized they couldn't, so that was it.
I have such a love for
was-
Moonraker. There's just something magic about that movie. It's so
Yeah.
stupid.
That is one thing I appreciated through doing this show, is that I never realized that as these movies came out, they were directly competing with other genres. So they were trying to like usurp other genres.
Oh,
so like
absolutely.
Moonraker with Star Wars, Live and Let Die with blaxploitation. What was it? The Man with the Golden Gun and Kung Fu movies. Yeah, it was like directly like competing.
Skyfall with Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, Skyfall with Dark Knight, and in the modern context, Casino Royale with the Jason Bourne movies. Yeah, and
That's for
Quantum
sure.
of Solace. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it's pretty interesting. What was it? License to Kill had it was a competing with like that detective noir genre, or that like
Well, yeah.
rogue agent kind of
Well, that whole 80s
genre.
action genre. I
Right.
mean, you can
80s
put
action.
Schwarzenegger or Stallone in that movie and it fits right in.
Yeah.
It's of that era.
That lone wolf, like I'm gonna, I'm turning my badge and my gun, and I'm gonna do that. Yeah,
Yep,
gonna do it myself.
that's right.
So yeah, I think that about wraps it up for gadgets,
I
right?
think so. I think so. We'll move on to what, Matt?
Okay, I want to do villains. I really want to get into the villains
All
here.
right. You want to start with the villains or their plans? Or both?
Let's start with the plans. Let's
Okay.
start with the plans, and then we'll talk the villains.
Because I think there are good villains who have bad plans and bad villains who have good plans. So I kind of like to separate them out.
Yeah. Did we pick a best gadget? Do we have to? Is that how this works?
Matt, works any way we like. But I kind of like that idea. If each of us pick, because some of the other ones
Personal
I actually have like
favorite?
rankings of. This one I didn't
Okay.
really rank because there were just so many.
Yeah.
I think if
fair
I
enough.
had to pick a favorite gadget, I don't even know.
Yeah, because each one like kind of serves a purpose at a time. I guess if I had to rank it based on the one that I would want to have like on a day-to-day basis,
Fake
it would be
nipple.
the really cool, yeah, the really cool fake nipple. No, it would be the really cool watch. That watch is sick. You could do a lot of cool stuff. I
Very
don't even
useful.
wear a watch, but I would wear that watch. Very cool.
I'm gonna go with the jetpack. I want the jetpack.
Yeah,
Fly around.
that's a good one too.
It'd be so cool.
It's legit.
All right, let's talk about some villain plans here. 24 of them, Matt.
Yeah.
I've ranked all 24 because I'm insane. I don't know if you actually rank them or you just have top and bottoms.
I really just have top and bottom.
Okay,
There's
well-
like a middle area.
Well, then let's start at the bottom. What are your sort of bottom couple?
Villain's plan from the very bottom, like the dumbest one
Yes,
of all, I thought was the
I'm so excited to hear what you say.
so I have like the most convoluted and just the sheer dumbest.
Okay.
And I think that when you look back on it, I think the most convoluted plan of all the Bond movies was probably like the one that like it really like you had to like sit and think about and wrap your head around and be like, how do they think this was a good idea? I think was the most confusing was probably the world is not enough, maybe, like in terms of like all the moving pieces.
That's fascinating.
I don't know. I thought it was
That one's in my top 5 best plans.
as best plans.
Yes.
Really.
Well, I sort of looked at the plans in a more broad sense, not in like how they executed it, but rather more in their overall strategy. And the idea of gaining an oil monopoly by destroying a major city and the pipelines, I think, is a good plan. Now, how they executed it, not perfect, but I actually think like of the plausibility, like that is a
okay.
good way to get rich and get away with it.
I understand. All right. To clarify, I definitely understand the plan itself, but logistically, like thinking about the logistics of it, you're going to use a nuclear submarine and you're going to
Destroy a
destroy a city to destroy Istanbul. So, but then how does that help you gain control of the oil pipe? Because it's not like every oil company in the world is there.
No, but they had the map where there are 4 pipelines, Electra owns 1, and the other 3 all go through Istanbul.
So it would disrupt the pipeline.
The other 3 she doesn't own,
Go
so
through
she'd
the
be
Caspian Sea.
the only choice.
And nobody would find that suspicious at all.
No,
You destroyed
because-
an entire city, and
Well,
nobody
why would you think it was the pipeline lady?
because there's all those like conspiracy people that are out there that would very easily trace it back to her
I don't know about
to
that.
be like,
but that's true of every one of these.
who stands to
plans.
gain here? She's like the only one that stands to gain here.
Fair enough. I don't think it's a perfect plan. I just
Right, Renard is supposed to be like an eco-terrorist, or just maybe he's just a terrorist. I don't
Yeah.
know. They established the eco part. He's more like a nihilist, but boy, I don't know.
I mean,
There are other lazy
I can
plans.
go
I
through
thought
my
that
list. No, go
yeah,
ahead.
I thought one of the laziest plans was A View to a Kill, because it was pretty much the same plan as Goldfinger. You
A
just
lot of
swap out
repeat plans.
instead of gold, it was microchips. Right? We're going to contaminate, or we're going to like wipe out the supply of microchips and make them unusable. Same thing. They were going to irradiate the gold
Yeah.
in the Goldfinger. So
Oh no, they
I
totally.
thought it was a lazy plan.
It's the same with Diamonds Are Forever and Die Another Day. They're both shooting lasers from space. I mean,
Same thing.
they're not known for being super. I think there are about 4 movies where you're stealing or smuggling a nuclear warhead. So,
Right. There was another one that kind of, I think it was, I want to say Thunderball. Was that the one where they were going to like shoot down a plane, and it was like right on the border between the Soviet bloc and the Western Europe?
yeah,
What movie was that?
it's not that one.
Wasn't Thunderball?
No, you're thinking of Spy Who Loved Me.
Yes.
No, that's not true. Hang on. I'm reading my list wrong here. Give me a second. There are a lot of these plans.
There are a lot of plans.
Here we go. Octopussy. That was Octopussy.
Okay. But I feel like that one was used a few times. And I think it's a
absolutely.
terrible
Well,
plan.
it was. I mean, it's similar to Thunderball, where they're stealing the warheads, using them for ransom. One of my second worst plan from You Only Live Twice is where Blofeld makes a spaceship to go up and capture the other spaceships to trigger war between the U.S. and Russia. Which
Yeah.
to me is, if you can build a spaceship that's better than what the US or Russia is building, there's got to be a better way to use that in your bad guy plan.
Yeah. And let's talk about for a minute how would that prevent, like, that's not going to encourage the US and the USSR to go to war. If anything, it'll encourage them to cooperate against the guy who has shot down both of their rockets. If you want a surefire way to end the Cold War by forcing the two superpowers to cooperate to bring down a common enemy, that's the way to do it. But yeah, I don't think you're really accomplishing what you wanted, what you think you're accomplishing.
If you can go to space like they did in that movie, then go full Hugo Drax and Moonraker and just make your own base up there. Like that, if you're going to space, you might as well be all in.
Yeah. No, sure. Yeah. Now, that was speaking of Hugo Drax, I thought that was one of the most unique villain plans.
I agree.
I actually really liked it. I actually that's in my top 3.
That's my 8th.
Yeah. The kind of the superhuman, it reminded me a lot of a future Star Trek movie that I don't think had come out at that point. Maybe it had, actually. Maybe they just saw Wrath of Khan and got the idea from that. But coming up with a superhuman race and putting them up, in space,
and releasing
it was interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting idea.
Agreed.
I mean, you got License to Kill, which is that's very realistic. It's a realistic plan. The
Smuggling heroin and gasoline.
Yeah, I think that's
I don't know if that'd work, but it's traditional. I mean, some of these you look at, like for Your Eyes Only, it's very traditional with the ATAC, getting it off the ship. Like, it's very basic spy stuff. Even Golden Gun with the Solex agitator, it's like, it's kind of basic. There's no real bad guy super plan.
What did you put for your number 1?
Well,
as bad and number 1 good.
Yeah, so for my bad ones, I mentioned You Only Live Twice. I also had in my bottom 5 Live and Let Die, Dr. Kananga dumping heroin to the U.S. to create a monopoly that I don't think would actually work. And even if it did, you should just sell the heroin in the regular U.S. and just make a bunch of money. I don't know why you need a monopoly. Didn't like that one. No, my number 1 worst plan, I don't know if you'll be surprised, Matt, Le Chiffre in Casino Royale. His plan is to recoup his lost money by winning in a poker game. What a stupid idea. Like, it's honestly, like, on no level is that a good way to make money, is by gambling a poker game, which we learned because he loses.
Yeah, they don't even establish that he's some kind of, like, sick gambling addict.
No, or that he cheats or something. Like, show him trying to cheat. I guess he tries to poison Bond, but he would have done that because he's Bond anyway.
Cheat with, like, a gadget, like Goldfinger, like have an earpiece. I don't know. card counter.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily.
There are a lot of ways that you could do
It's
it.
just
I mean,
it's like,
yeah,
and it's not even like an ambitious plan because it's like, all right, if your plan is to create a giant space laser and you fail, I'm like, well, but at least you shot for the moon. I mean, you tried. This is just, I'm just gonna have a poker game.
you know what? I
Weak.
honestly, I totally overlooked the bad guy plot, like plan for Casino Royale, because it's such a good movie otherwise that I guess I didn't let the villain plan even enter my head because it was more of an origin story for the rebooted Bond. So I just thought of it more in the terms of Bond, like it's a coming of age, coming into your own story for Bond.
Yep.
So I just totally ignore even though Lashif is a iconic villain or a unique villain because he weeps blood and all that, and thought the actor did a great job portraying him. But I think you're right. It's a lame plan. It's a terrible plan.
And I like villains that it's not that a villain has to have a big exciting plan, but at least have some. It's not even really a plan. So anyway, that's my bottom. My top 5. Number 5, Goldfinger. Irradiate the gold at Fort Knox. While I agree it would be difficult to get a nuclear warhead into the U.S., there's just something really appealing about the idea of irradiating. It's like, we're not going to steal the gold. We're going to irradiate it. I kind of like that.
You can't go near it for basically a lifetime.
Right. And I'm like, that's clever. Would it work? I don't know, but there is some nice thought behind that. Number 4, Thunderball, Emilio Largo stealing nuclear warheads and asking for ransom. Again, very simple plan. If they're dumb enough to put real nuclear warheads on test flights, then steal them, go nuts, and you just ask for money. Like, dead simple. Hard to screw up. I already mentioned Electra King at number 3. Number 2, 008, Trevelyan in GoldenEye, use an EMP to destroy London after robbing the banks. Again, what?
He's 006.
006, damn it.
We went the wrong way, but that's
006. Right. It's a good plan because he didn't have to build the EMP. The Russians already did that. All he had to do was steal the keys. And it's I feel of almost all these plans, that might be the easiest to get away with.
Yeah.
Because if you EMP London and essentially destroy London in a way, like they're not going to really be able, like you can just escape. Like they're not going to be able to really find you. I think you can, because you can do it remotely.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially since it's coming from space, like.
And they're just going to think the Russians did it, or they're,
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty. If they had just killed Natalia when they had the chance at the original base, they probably would have gotten away with it.
Yeah. Yeah, gosh, that movie was real Star Wars, like Star Wars in the Reagan sense, not like the movie sense. But a little bit late because it came out in the early 90s, but yeah, the space orbital defense grid.
And finally, my number 1, Matt, we haven't talked about it yet. Can you guess what it is?
We haven't talked about the movie at all?
Or the plan at all. It has not come up in this plan discussion.
Dr. No?
Dr. No!
Yeah.
I rated that my number 1 because it's so...
Really?
Once again, a simple plan. Use radio beams to destroy the rocket launches from an island in a way they can't trace because they're just radio waves. You can't really trace them.
Okay. In the book, he's doing it because he's harvesting some kind of plant or some kind of resource on his island.
I believe it's manure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a special type of manure that only grows in like that part of the world, in that like area. Mm-hmm. And he's again wants to monopolize it or something. Maybe this might be the most confusing for me, because what does he stand to gain by screwing up rocket launches?
He works for Spectre. So
Spectre's just like the wrench in the machine, right? They're just trying to screw everything up.
I think at some point he says something along the lines of, if I hurt the West, it helps the East, sort of thing. I think there's some argument in there like that. But it's not for like financial gain.
It seems so inconsequential, and it seems like eventually the U.S. government will figure out that this is not the best place to do rocket launches, and will move it somewhere else.
But that's what's great about it. It's not high stakes. Like you're just screwing
not high
with
stakes
them.
At all. It's like it's like, okay, so we can't shoot rockets from this island. We'll just go to that island over there and shoot rockets when we're far enough away. Like, you don't even have to topple Dr. No in order to defeat his plan. You just got to move far enough away so that his radio beams can't.
But that's okay, because he's not trying to stop the space program. He's trying to slow it down. So go ahead and move. By the time you do that, the Russians will be miles ahead of you. They'll be on the moon by then. It's great.
I don't know
when you
about
look
that.
at Blofeld, right, he makes his own spaceship to damage the space program. All Dr. No does is set up a radio tower, and he does the same thing.
If NASA is smart enough to build these rockets to go to the moon, you don't think they're smart enough to figure out what is messing them up?
Apparently they couldn't, because Bond had to do it. If Bond had never showed up, they wouldn't have found out. And Bond didn't even know what his plan was until he got to the island. Because radio waves, apparently, according to the movie, you can't trace them. They don't know what the problem is. They just know the rockets keep crashing.
And they can't figure it out. So it's just taking them a long time. I agree with that it is a simple plan. And I think there is something to be said for simplicity, because Miley's favorite plans are the most convoluted. The ones that I think require the most explaining or expounding, I think, are usually the worst plans.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would say it's the best plan, because it's really, at the end of the day, like you're ruining their day. But I don't think you're achieving anything great. But then again, Dr. No was just a henchman. He wasn't really he was a top operative within Spectre, but he wasn't like the head honcho of it. He wasn't
yeah, I mean, that's
he wasn't like
a
Goldfinger, like a central guy.
Well, Matt, let me ask you, what's your number one?
My number one villain plan, I really like Goldfinger. Goldfinger's got to be in my top three, like the irradiated gold. Same reason that we just talked about. Sean, I really like the villain plan from. There's another one that we haven't talked about yet. On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
That is in my bottom 5.
I love that plan. I think that's a great plan. Let's talk about that. What's wrong with brainwashing a bunch of women to carry a drug into a country and releasing it into the food supply and ruining agriculture?
Matt, let me break down all the steps that would have to be completed for this plan to be successful, okay? Step 1, develop a virus that can specifically target a plant or animal class. Number 2, somehow locate and convince attractive women who work on or near those plants or animals to come to your weird allergy institute. Number 3, brainwash all of them into doing whatever you say. Number 4, getting them to go back to where they came from. I guess if you brainwash them, maybe that's not so hard. Number 5, developing some sort of worldwide communication system, they didn't have cell phones, where you can reach out to all of them and convince them to release this virus at the same time, or at least when you tell them to. And by the way, Matt, I don't think it was clear in the movie. Do you know why he's doing it? This plan in the movies?
Why he's poisoning the...
What is he trying to gain?
I think he just has like a vendetta. Doesn't he just hate the West?
He wants something specific, which I didn't even realize till I reread the Wikipedia. Seriously. They don't make it very clear in the movie.
Blofeld's trying to... He wants something specific, like an item?
Yeah, he's threatening...
Or a resource?
He's threatening the UN because he wants the UN to grant him a pardon for all past and future crimes. And this is the threat he's going to use to get it. Yes, I think it's mentioned super briefly in the movie.
Yeah, because I think I totally glossed over that.
On that.
For all past and future crimes?
Yeah.
So he would become like immunity. He would have immunity from...
I mean, I guess they could kill him, but yeah, and I was like, I don't know if the UN even has the legal authority to do that, even if they wanted to.
Yeah, the UN are not the world police. They're not Interpol or anything.
I agree. I don't think
you'd be better off appealing to Interpol and all of the. Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought it was just he was just trying to stir shit up, like regular Bond villains do. I didn't think there was a type of goal here.
It's just too complex of a plan, Matt. I'm just gonna be honest.
Sean,
Too
this is
complex.
not. This is definitely not my favorite.
It's fun.
I just put it out there because I
Okay.
wanted to poke fun at
All
it,
right.
but it is pretty funny. It's pretty insane, and
It's a good movie plan.
but what I like about it is that I think it is a very Bondian plan because I think it marries the fiction, the absurdity with a semi-realistic, semi-plausible goal, like the whole poisoning of a part of a vegetation so that it causes a famine or it causes disease or something. That's a very real eco-terrorist goal.
I think brainwashing someone to commit terrorism is somewhat plausible.
That too, yeah.
Either through hypnosis or just through constant messaging. I mean, that's suicide bombers today are not far off from that.
Right. I think it's a good mix of the two, with something that's so bananas left field that is can only happen in the Bond world.
Yep.
No, but if I had to pick another Bond villain plan that I really liked, it's Tomorrow Never Dies. I didn't like it when we talked about the plan. When we talked about the movie, I didn't really care for it. But I read the Wikipedia page. I understand the plan now, and I think it is a very good plan. It is very unique to the Bond movies. Like nobody's tried to do anything like it in any other Bond movies, as far as I can tell.
Trigger a war, like trying to start
trying to start a war by using media.
That element's interesting. I don't think they land it that well. Like I think it could have been more interesting.
I like the reveal of the plan.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna print all these newspapers, and I'm gonna be rich because I'm gonna have exclusive rights to like the moment. I think it is very prescient to like.
I agree.
The news world today. It's like I'll have the first scoop. I will be ahead of everybody else by miles, and I will the war will be covered. Very yellow journalism.
I agree.
The war will be covered from my eyes, like my news company.
But do I have to do another walkthrough for you of how many steps it would take for this plan to be successful?
Yeah, but are we basing these on how realistic the plan is, or how good it is? How good for a Bond film it is? I would say this can be pretty realistic. Go through your steps.
Step 1. Acquire a large chunk of worldwide mass media. Number 2, launch a global satellite network. Number 3, steal a stealth ship. Number 4, build an underwater drill you can control. Step 4, use that drill to steal a missile from a British ship. What number am I on? Number 6, partner with a rogue general in China. Number 7, and this is assuming the plan works, use that missile to... Oh, and then you have to steal the GPS encoder. Step 8, move the ships into the wrong location. Step 9, shoot the missile at the ships and convince them there's war. Step 10, the British have to then bomb... Or no, Elliot Carver is going to blow up all the Chinese government meeting and kill everyone except for the guy he's partnered with. Step 10, or step 11, get his general in charge. Step 12, get broadcasting rights in China.
There's a lot of steps.
Come on.
There's a lot of steps, but it's a Bond movie. Like I think it's a good villain plot for a movie. Obviously, it'll never happen in real life. That's why it's a movie.
I know it's not that bad, but it's just funny to me how because he's a really rich dude. He couldn't bribe his way into this. Seriously.
Well, it's just like with On Her Majesty's. Like, why not just steal a plane and shoot the poison out like from a crop duster onto a bunch of plants?
Like in Goldfinger. Just call Pussy Galore in her flying circus.
Right. Why couldn't you just do that with a bunch? Like that's you brainwash the Pussy Galore group from Goldfinger to shoot this poison out of a jet. Like why do you go through all the trouble of like building this women army that are going to go back to their home countries and introduce this poison? Convoluted it very much is.
It's the old kiss, Matt. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, I think that Dr. No's plan is looking better and better because it was
Although
very, very easy
Le Chiffre
to
has
understand.
the simplest plan, and it's a very dumb
And
plan.
it's the worst one,
So,
right? You're gonna win a
that's not
bunch
a
of money
universal
on
rule.
a poker game.
game.
It's not.
Come
It's
on.
Texas Hold'em. They're in like a fancy casino. I'll just play some Texas Hold'em.
At no point do they prove he's good at poker. Drives me crazy. All right, Matt, let's, in the sake of time, move on and talk about the villains themselves.
Yeah, let's
Our
do
top
that.
and bottom villains, all 24 of them here. You want me to start, or would you like to start?
Yeah, you go ahead and begin with
All right.
the top and bottom.
My bottom 5, here we go. From the best of the 5. Number 20, Dr. Kananga, Live and Let Die. He's fine, but he's not interesting or memorable. Well, actually, I don't agree with that. I'm going to rearrange some of these now.
I'm going to step in about Dr. Kananga here.
Okay, sell me on it.
I think that, and this comes from the source material, the book that I read, the Some Kind of Hero, the book that you gave me,
That's right.
gifted me. The actor who played Dr. Kananga had a beef with a lot of people on set. Did not get along with many people. So I think that I wouldn't say that he mailed it in, but he definitely was not, I don't think was at his best when he acted in the movie. He had many personal issues with a lot of it had to do with racism.
Yep.
But a lot of it was where they filmed and how the movie was portrayed.
That's fair.
And he was lied to actually a lot of steps of the way by writers, but anyway, I think that the villain, if you read the book, it's one of the two Bond books that I've read. I read that one and Dr. No.
Mm-hmm.
I think his plan and himself, he comes across as a very good villain in the book. So I think that maybe, not saying that it's all the actor's fault necessarily, but maybe if they had gotten somebody else to play him. By the way, fun fact, did you know that he and the actor who plays Baron Samdi, were actually childhood friends?
Oh.
And they did not know they were working on this movie together until they both arrived on set.
Oh, that's dope.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so that's pretty cool. They lived like down the street from each other.
Wow. Small world.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cool. So I don't know. I wanted to defend Dr. Kananga
totally
/ Mr. Big.
Yes.
Because I think he comes across as a much more dynamic villain in the book.
Yeah, the movie's not fair to him.
Yeah.
I agree. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I still got to knock him down for that. I'd also say General Orlov / Kamal Khan from Octopussy. Again, mostly just not memorable. Down there, Dominic Green from Quantum of Solace. I think he's just a wimpy villain. Actually, I rated his plan pretty high, because I think stealing a country's water and then forcing them to pay exorbitant amounts of money for it is a pretty good plan. But I just think he's a wimpy guy. And then my absolute worst, my absolute bottom is Blofeld from Spectre.
Okay, I was going to ask. You need to specify.
I've got
which Blofeld.
I've got 4 Blofelds on this list.
Okay, so Blofeld from Spectre, you would
Yes.
say, is the worst.
I think
interesting.
Because
that's
he
an
didn't
interesting
do
one.
crap. He was useless. He wasn't interesting. He was I felt like he was barely in the movie.
Interesting.
I would challenge you. I really don't think there's anyone worse
of a Bond villain.
And I feel pretty confident in that, actually.
All right, I'm just gonna throw out my worst.
Please do.
I didn't think about this for very long, Sean, but but I think we have a winner. I went with Mr. Wit and Mr. Kidd from Diamonds Are Forever.
But see, they're not the main villain of that movie.
Yeah, but they're villains, and I think that they're crappy.
But I think the Blofeld in that movie, who really is the key villain.
Okay, all right, you're right. Main villains, because we could have also gone with Bambi and Thumper from the same movie.
Yes, that will come up in the Bond
Girls don't have any
discussion.
Backstory at all.
No, Mr. Wit and Mr. Kidd. And by the way, I rep for Wit and Kidd because they're awesome.
They're so odd.
But that's what's great about them. They make it feels like they stumbled out of another movie into this movie by accident.
Yes, it does.
They were just around that day on the set.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
love that. But I agree with you. But again, Bambi and Thumper are the same way. There are a lot of B characters that are
All right.
very odd.
Fair enough. All right. Main villain that I didn't
According to Wikipedia,
like.
there's also a Wikipedia list James Bond villains, and they list who the primary villains are. So that's where I use. That's why I use.
There's always a main villain. All right. I'm going to go with Blofeld from Diamonds Are Forever.
I liked that Blofeld. Actually, he's my second favorite. I think there's a Blofeld that's worse than him.
He's cloning people.
But I think the actor is really good.
Okay, but I'm talking about the villain. The actor is really good. I agree, but the villain himself, I think that's the movie where he gets kind of ruined for me.
Well, let's talk about the 4 Blofelds, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Blofeld in Spectre, Blofeld in Diamonds Are Forever, the Blofeld in You Only Live Twice,
right?
And then Telly Savalas Blofeld in On Her Majesty's Secret Service,
who I think was the best Blofeld.
He's actually my number 1 villain.
Yes, he's
my number 1 villain.
I like that.
I think
he's not my number 1 villain, but I thought he was fantastic in that movie.
You have to. It's just like I feel like it's one of those things you have to put Blofeld first, and of the Blofelds, he was the best.
Yeah. It's also, I think, that's got to be where they got a lot of the Doctor.
A ton of it. Dr. Evil.
Dr. Evil. Thank you.
I would say that's the iconic Blofeld performance.
Yeah, I would agree. I really liked him, in terms of best villain. I didn't remind me of the For Your Eyes Only Blofeld. What his
You mean the You Only Live Twice?
I'm sorry, You Only Live Twice. These movies sometimes they blur together.
Oh my god, I had to research so much.
Oh, okay, all right. You Only Live Twice Blofeld is the rocket volcano Blofeld. Yes, and he instead of just killing Bond, he's like, we're gonna put you on this rocket. Bond is trying to sneak on the rocket.
He takes him off the rocket.
He takes him off the line. Yeah,
but you could also argue that's one, because that is the first time we really see him on screen. He's mentioned in the previous movies, but that's the first time you see him on screen. He's got the scar. He's got the cat. So that might be more iconic, perhaps, in the establishment of the character.
Sure, because we always do give the Bond actors like a movie. They usually take between 2 to 3 movies to get situated and get comfortable in the role. So maybe it's the same. We could exchange, even though they're different actors, but
yeah,
flesh out the character of Blofeld. What are some other bad villains?
I thought go ahead.
I was gonna go for the villain in Octopussy.
Yeah, General Olav and Kamal Khan.
Right, I think you did. You mentioned that one. The Living Daylights.
Yes, I agree.
Pretty unremarkable
Koskov
villain.
And I thought the Brad Whitaker character at least was over the top and interesting, but I think the villains are the least interesting part of The Living Daylights. Yeah. Unfortunately.
No, because that was a great movie otherwise.
Oh, it's some of the best action. I think Timothy Dalton's excellent in it, but it's so not about the villains.
No, very, very generic villains.
Yeah.
And it's another recycled plan.
Yep.
From a previous one.
Yep.
Where they're gonna try to do something to heighten the Cold War. Right? They're gonna steal nukes or something and set one off in Eastern Europe.
In Daylights?
I want to say, isn't that the plan?
No.
They're going to set off a nuke in East, like somewhere that's on the border between.
This is the second time you've taken that plan and applied it to the wrong movie. No, that's Octopussy.
But didn't they also do it in Living Daylights?
No, Living Daylights is where they go to the Middle East, where Whitaker was going to get opium in Afghanistan or whatever country they were in, and Koskov was going to get weapons from Whitaker. It was just like a traditional drug weapons
I am
deal.
Getting them mixed up. I am getting
because
Octopussy has a lot of India, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of Bond goes to India in that one. Okay, and then this one they go to the Middle East.
Yep.
They go to Afghanistan specifically. Okay. Yeah, not a great. I didn't think they were great. They were not memorable at all.
No.
They were just two Soviet generals, two Russian generals that were just very generic.
Yeah.
Nothing iconic about them.
Now,
probably my least favorite in the series.
What about some of your favorites, Matt? Let's get into it.
Ooh, I really liked, in no particular order, I really, really liked the lady villain from Russia with Love.
Colonel Klebb?
Colonel Klebb, yeah.
Who's in
really
my bottom 5.
No, I thought she was great. She has those knife shoes, classic.
But it's just a boring character.
No,
she's you just said it. You just said like a generic military person.
No, but she's not though, because she's a lady, and she's angry. She gets very angry at Bond and him messing with her plans.
You're not gonna sell me on that one. Sorry. Unfortunately, I'm not buying it. But I appreciate your thought.
It's great. I mean, what other movie has that?
I mean, there's so many better villains than her. Well, look, she's in the middle of the pack.
They borrow her character for Austin Powers as well.
That is true. I didn't think about that. That is true. Yeah,
so she must be iconic because she's in that. So boom.
Okay. Can't argue with that. Great. You got me there.
Another worse. Or no, we're doing good now. We're on the good villains. Another good Bond villain. I really like Alec Trevelyan from GoldenEye.
Awesome. Sean Bean kicking ass. He's great.
Really did a great job at portraying a Bond villain. Really had a great story. They fleshed out his background in a great way. And to some extent, all of the other villains were pawns of him that he was using, which I thought was so cool, especially because he's not part of an institution like Spectre. He is his own institution. It's not like part of Spectre or Quantum. He's like his own man, but he's also controlling all these things. He's Janus, the two-faced man.
What I love about it is, to me, I can think of maybe 2 or 3 others, the most realistic villain. I'm like, this guy could exist in the real world. Like, he plays him very straightforward. I would argue another character who is in my top 5 is Sanchez from License to Kill, who I think is a really good villain, compelling to watch, very interesting. And I'm like, that could be a real drug dealer guy from South America.
He is, like, hands down, there are drug dealers in South America that are him.
Yeah.
That are ruthless and vicious.
Yep.
Just terrifying like him. Yeah. Great villain. Great performance. I want to just go back to Trevelyan.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he loses points for this, but there was that moment in the statue park where he shoots Bond with the closing time, James, last call, and he shoots him with the tranquilizer dart when he could have just shot him for real.
Yeah, but Matt, then the movie would have been like 40 minutes.
Then the movie would have been over, yeah, and then there would be no more Bond. But I mean, in that part, maybe they could have had him shoot him for real, but then he doesn't end up dying from the bullet.
That's the thing. They don't do a lot of that. They do it with Daniel Craig in Skyfall.
Where he gets shot? No, it's Casino Royale, I think. Where you're talking about with the poison. No, it is Skyfall.
It is Skyfall. At the beginning, he gets shot and survived, but they don't do a lot of that.
No, they don't. They don't, because I don't know why though. Because it's not because, like, getting shot doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to die. Matter of fact, there are a lot of cases where people survive from being shot.
Although to be fair, Bond is usually being shot at by high-powered machine guns or missile launchers or other crazy
things that guarantee instant death. But that moment, I don't know. I didn't like that part where he goes is the classic villain, like, I'm not going to kill you, I'm going to toy with you, and that's my downfall.
Instead, I'm going to put you in this helicopter
and have missiles fire from the helicopter, but back.
Right, a helicopter with ejector seats.
For some reason, helicopter with ejector seats, right?
Made for Bond to escape.
Because this is a villain plot in a Bond movie. My favorite villain of all time, Sean.
Bring it on.
May not surprise you. I keep it classic. With Goldfinger, Auric Goldfinger.
He was in my top 3. Yes,
my favorite.
Southern
Bond
gentleman.
Mm-hmm. Just. He exudes like Bond villain. I like that he is easily frustrated and easily like that whole a lot of the Goldfinger is a lot of, from the very beginning, it's very Warner Brothers-esque. where it's like Bond is Bugs Bunny, and he's Elmer Fudd. Like he grabs the earpiece and he's talking to like he gets frustrated and he gets flummoxed, but he's also dangerous and deadly at the same time. He kills all those people at the meeting.
Yep.
He tells them all his plan and then murders all of them. Like that's still he's a villain. He's a cold-hearted villain, but Bond just keeps just messing with him at every turn, like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. And I like that.
A great example of again another plausible villain where I'm like, this dude seems somewhat realistic. Like, it would not surprise me if you're like, oh, and then he went on to run for Congress. I'm like, he seems like he'd make a good Congress person, you know? Yeah, I think the performance is really great in that. Again, we almost never have American villains in these franchises, and I think he's a good example of why we should have more. Because I think it is a really unique performance amongst all these other villains.
Right, him, Christopher Walken.
Yeah, Max Zorin.
View to a Kill was an American villain.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the list of all the villains. That's the only one on here I see. Dominic Green, was he British? He's so uninteresting. I can't remember what he sounds like.
What about the Quantum? Oh God.
Dominic Green. He must have been British.
I think he was British. Mm. I think he was. And what about
Brad Whitaker?
Brad Whit. I was just going to say
from
the general
Living Daylights. So
Living
Joe Don
Daylights.
Baker's so good, they brought him back for yeah.
Jimbo. Hey Jimbo. Yeah.
Yeah. A great one. The only other one you haven't mentioned that I have in my top couple is Raul Sylvia from Skyfall.
And as a top villain? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I don't think I think he's a little lame at the end of the movie, but I think that, as I mentioned last week, that 45-minute chunk in the middle where he's really getting stuff done, I think he's that scene where he's locked in that glass prison thing and he takes out the teeth and he does that little speech to Judi Dench. I think it's awesome. I think he's great.
Yeah. That was Academy Award winning performance right there.
Awesome.
Yeah, he did a really good job there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honorable mention for worst villain.
Yeah.
I think we kind of talked about this when we did the movie, but Renard from World Is Not Enough. Like they give him that whole, and I think a lot of it is writing, because they give him that whole impervious to pain
what a weird
aspect, and they never use it. They only use it
when he punches a table once.
Right. He punches the table. It says, "I feel nothing." Is holding the hot stone. Says, "I feel nothing." The fight with Bond on the submarine, dies, says, "I feel nothing," and then he's dead. But yeah, why there were so many things you could have done with that aspect, and they just don't use it.
Well, on the flip side, though, you liked Electra King from that movie, though, didn't you?
I liked Electra King, but not Renard. No. The Renard part, I think he was essentially just her lapdog, pretty much. Like, he was very much a pawn in her plan.
Yep.
But there were other things about World Is Not Enough that I enjoyed. But like Christmas Jones, who I think was one of the most underrated Bond girls. Just gonna say.
Then what an amazing pivot over to our next discussion, which is Bond girls. Now, Matt, we agreed out of respect for these women to not rank them, which I did not, but I did highlight some of my favorites and least favorites. Any particular? You want me to begin? You want to begin?
All right, you started the last one, so I think when I think about like worst Bond girls,
sure,
to me are the ones that don't live up to, like they start out. There are two that I can think of, and I don't think either of these are surprises, that start with so much potential and then fizzle out by the end of the movie, or become either unimportant or detrimental to their character and to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be Diamonds Are Forever's Tiffany Case.
No. Yes.
Tiffany Case from Diamonds Are Forever, and
Jill St. John.
Jill St. John, who plays her, yes. Man with the Golden Gun. Dr. Goodhead.
Dr. Goodnight.
Good night. Sorry, good night.
Or no, yes. I'm sorry. No. I'm getting confused. Dr. Goodhead is, well, there's good. That's not the same movie, is it?
I think it is.
No, because there's Goodnight who works for MI6, and then there's Dr. Goodhead.
I don't think
and they're
there
two
is a
separate
Doctor.
characters.
I don't think that's got to be from Austin Powers, right? That's not a real
No,
Bond
Dr.
villain.
Goodhead absolutely
No,
is.
there can't
Dr.
be.
Holly Goodhead, who was in Moonraker. She was in Moonraker.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is not who I'm talking.
Goodnight is from Golden Gun.
Good Night. Yes. Dr. Good, or just Good Night. Good Night. Do you
Yeah,
not
that was kind of her code name of sorts.
because I mean they start off as trying to establish them as, and I think Diamonds does this worse, does this like even more egregiously. They establish them as good, positive, powerful, strong female leads, and then somewhere along the line in the movie they get eclipsed by Bond and Bond's masculinity, and they like in Golden Gun she falls to the background. In Diamonds she just becomes a blithering idiot. The way that they wrote her is just like she just becomes like a fool that can't do anything right.
What a shame.
That actively sabotages Bond's plan with her own idiocy, and I hate that. I think it's poorly written.
Which is funny to me about Diamonds, because Tiffany Case isn't even the worst Bond girl in that movie, which is shocking because we are later introduced to Bambi and Thumper.
But they're not Bond girls. They're just henchmen.
So I have my A list and I have my B list.
I would not count them as Bond girls.
They're B list Bond girls.
They're women that appear in a Bond movie, but I think to be a Bond girl, you have to be like either a love interest of Bond or an agent that is moving the plot forward.
So
in the movie, like you're either the villain that betrays Bond, or you're the ally of Bond. I think they're just henchmen.
So then let me challenge you on that. The World Is Not Enough. Electra King, Dr. Christmas Jones. Who's the Bond girl?
They're both Bond girls, but Dr. Jones is the true Bond girl. Like they always set up one that is close to him in the beginning, and she either dies or turns evil. Then you got the second one who either dies or turns evil, and they're both kind of interchangeable. And then you got the third one that stays true to him and lives and is the one that Bond gets with in the end. That's like the format of all these older Bond movies. I think they kind of follow that paint by numbers. But I would say that they are both Bond girls because they have large roles in the movie.
Sure.
And in the story. Mm-hmm. But I don't know about Bambi and Thumper. I would say they're henchmen. Because like, would you say that Oddjob is like a villain? He is a villain, but is he the main villain of Goldfinger? No, he's a henchman.
No, but I guess the question is, can there be more than one Bond girl in a movie? And I would argue yes.
I would say yes.
Because a Bond girl to me is a broad term. Like again, I'll throw in Tomorrow Never Dies. Wei Lin, arguably the Bond girl, but Paris Carver also plays an important role in the movie, had a past relationship with Bond.
I would say they're both Bond girls. Yes. Both of them qualify as Bond because Paris Carver dies.
Yes.
They can't both live in the end. There's got to be one that dies or turns evil, and then one that lives and stays true to Bond.
Same with Die Another Day, Jinx and Miranda Frost. Same idea.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my pick for the two worst.
Okay.
If I had to say two best, or do you want to do your two worst?
Well, I think my worst are somewhat obvious. I like Tiffany Case a lot more than you do. I agree the movie doesn't do her justice, but I do think Jill St. John is good in that role, and I think for a good chunk of the movie, it's interesting. For a movie set in Las Vegas in America, I think it's okay to have gone there with her. So we'll disagree a little bit. I get your position, but I stand by. I actually think she's not bad in that.
I guess I just wish that they gave her one moment of
redemption
in the end.
I agree.
Where if they're gonna play it up for yucks that she's an idiot, like give her one part of redemption where she like saves Bond,
Well,
where she
it's
like rescues him, and or like somebody like in Thunderball where Domino where the villain is about to kill Bond and Domino kills the villain and saves Bond's life. Like why couldn't they just do that for her?
well, my favorite
Especially because they
example.
work her up in the beginning.
My favorite example of that thing in all of media is in The Office, where Michael Scott is always an idiot, but when he goes to talk to Ryan at business school, at the end of that episode, he spends the whole episode being a complete moron, but at the end he says, business isn't about business, it's about the people. I don't remember the exact line. It's much better than what I said. But that's the moment you're like, maybe Michael Scott isn't a complete idiot. Maybe he actually does know what he's doing. I always like that example.
Yeah, what does he say? It's not about the books or something. Or it's not about the grades or.
Yeah, but he goes, it's about, and you'll never understand that, or something. He said something like that. It's great.
Yeah, because he's handing out the candy bars and stuff. Yeah. But
anyway, off topic. My bottom Bond girls, Good Night from Golden Gun. I gotta include her down there. I'm gonna give an honorable mention to Paris Carver, who was not good. And I thought Mayday from A View to a Kill was kind of a waste of a Bond girl.
She's in my top. She's in my top three
because she doesn't do anything. She's strong, but she barely talks. When you get a great actress like that,
she wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't. They got a great actress.
But they wasted. But to be fair, they wasted Christopher Walken in that role too. So I think it was just good people in a bad movie. Unfortunately,
maybe it was. Maybe I'm just looking at it from the wrong way. I thought she was excellent. I just don't think that they gave her enough opportunity.
No.
They didn't give her enough speaking roles, really. Enough speaking parts.
Yep.
But as a character, she is very strong and very positive, and she saves Bond again, sacrifices her own life to save Bond. Not many Bond girls in the franchise do that.
That's true.
So.
But honestly, there weren't really many I didn't like. To be honest, this was probably the one I struggled the most to come up with negatives on, because some were better than others, but very few were straight up bad.
No, I agree. The two that I mentioned, I think, are the only ones that I have qualms with.
Yeah.
Which is why I put them out there. What do you think of? You got Jill Masterson from Goldfinger. You seems to be a divisive one sometimes.
Well, to me, it's just like it's an honorable mention. Jill and Tilly Masterson, the Masterson sisters. May they rest in peace. Yeah, she's fine. But that movie is so redeemed by one of my favorite Bond girls, which is Pussy Galore.
Oh yeah,
who's awesome.
She is awesome. It is not okay what Bond does.
No, to her and most of these women.
And most, to be clear, not okay, but a very good actor, very well played Bond girl, and a very good, yes, I agree, very very like good independent Bond woman. Very cool. My favorite Bond girl. And again, I don't think it's going to be a surprise if you listen to our show, but the Spy Who Loved Me, the Bond girl from The Spy Who Loved Me, I thought was tremendous.
Anya Amasova.
Thank you for jumping in there, because I totally did not remember her name. I was just going to call her the Triple X. They usually or Double X or something.
No, it was Triple X.
Triple X, yes, is her like code name, and they usually refer to her as Triple X in the movie. I thought she was great.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you picked her.
She's my favorite. You thought I was going to go Christmas Jones?
No, nobody's favorite is Christmas Jones.
She's not my favorite.
You can't say, good or bad. She's nobody's favorite.
No, I think Triple X is my favorite because she is truly Bond's equal, like throughout that entire film, and I don't think she takes it. There's no, like, she fixes the car. She knows what Bond. She's intelligent. She's Bond's equal. She's Bond's like Soviet parallel throughout the whole movie.
I think it works in the story of the movie well. I don't think she's my favorite actress to ever be a Bond girl.
Oh no, I'm not talking about I guess this is a difference where I'm talking
we're
about the
disagreeing
character.
a little bit,
Yeah.
but no, I agree with you. It's great. It's honestly a great character.
Mm-hmm.
See, I thought you were going to pick a different one. Do you know who I think you were going to pick?
Halle Berry?
As Jinx? No,
as Jinx?
That's terrible. That Bond girl is awful. She only is allowed to talk in quips.
Yeah. Yeah, Hallmark wrote her character.
Such a shame because she could have been so great. No, of course I'm talking. You won't. I guarantee you won't even realize what movie it's from. Melina Havelock.
Is that the character or the actress?
That's the character. If it makes you feel any better, it was played by Carol Bouquet.
That doesn't make me feel better at all.
No. For Your Eyes Only. Her parents get killed on the ship. She has the crossbow.
Oh.
Works with Bond.
No, she's up there. I would probably place her in the top 5.
Because she's the only civilian Bond girl who kicks ass.
True.
Which
she's
I
not
like.
trained or anything. Yes. She's on the Greek islands, right? There.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
She's really cool. Yeah, I would definitely put her up there as she does kick ass. Yeah. But that movie was very plot heavy. And a lot of the plot I think didn't have to do with her. It had to do with Bond solving mysteries and going around the Greek islands. But no, you're right. She does. She knows the culture, and that helps.
She
Bond
contributes
plot.
to the movie.
She's very helpful, and
especially towards the end where it's him and her and the other guy, who you think is the villain at the beginning, but he's not, and like their merry crew that go up to the monastery and do that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think she contributes well. So I would have said she's in my top. Also in my top. Is she the best Bond girl? But she is the only Bond girl who actually got a ring. Tracy. Teresa. I think you kind of, like, by law, you kind of have to put her near the top, don't you?
No,
They're
you
married.
Don't. You totally don't. They get married because Bond. I mean, God, it's such a mess because he's courting her because he wants. Isn't he like playing a role? He's like, it's part of the job, but then he accidentally falls in love with her.
Well, first he finds her on the beach.
Right.
Is she trying to like?
She's trying to drown herself.
Okay.
Runs out in the water to try to drown herself.
Then
he rescues her.
But how does he get connected with her father?
She drives away.
It's not a coincidence.
And then he says, "I bet this wouldn't have happened to that other guy." Looks at the camera, winks.
Does he look right into the camera when he says that? I can't remember. Sure feels
yeah,
like
actually,
it.
But yeah, he does. He pretty much does. Then he goes to the ski resort to confront Blofeld, but he's disguised as the heirloom guy, the family crest guy.
Yeah.
Doctor, and he puts on that stupid accent for like 40 minutes.
What a weird movie.
But then he meets her again, and I want to say God, what was the
no?
plot
So the plot is after the beach, he follows. Tracy invites Bond to her hotel room to thank him, where he's then attacked by a man. Bond returns to his room, finds Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
Bond is kidnapped by Draco, her father, who says, "I will give you £1 million if you marry her."
That's what it is. Right. The father essentially bribes Bond into marrying
Bond
her.
says, "I don't want the money, but..."
Because he falls in love with her.
But he does say, "I will romance Tracy if Draco reveals the whereabouts of Blofeld," which later at that lunch or whatever, Tracy basically says, "Tell him, Dad, just tell him where it is." So.
Yeah.
Weird movie.
Yeah, she's not the best Bond girl, not by a long shot.
No.
And just the fact that they got married does not make her the best Bond girl.
No, she's definitely not the best, but she's an honorable mention.
Sure, I'll give her that.
And before we move on, I have to give one more honorable mention.
Solitaire from Live and Let Die.
No, God, no. She's mediocre. I mean, she could see the future, but who cares? No, I was going to say the other girl Bond married, Kissy Suzuki from You Only Live Twice, who He marries her in what I think is a real ceremony, and then she's never. At least Tracy gets like a grave and like it's brought up. Never mentioned. He goes to a somewhat remote island, marries a girl,
In
and
like a
then
true like Shinto
disappears.
ceremony.
Yeah, like they didn't. It wasn't.
But
Even
I
a
guess
fake
that
wedding.
doesn't count because it wasn't in the West. It wasn't. It didn't happen in the West, so it didn't happen.
You know,
Even though they
whatever
did
Bond has
really
to
get
tell
married.
himself.
But then she gets poisoned, right? The poison that's meant for Bond.
Yes, down the rope, which is a
Down
great
the
gadget.
rope.
Yep. Not
Poison
really a
rope.
gadget, but I like that idea. But yeah, and then she's just never mentioned again.
It's true. He doesn't lay flowers at her grave.
Nope, I felt bad for her. She was on screen for I think about 3 minutes in that movie.
He had to put on the racist Japanese makeup and everything to convince them that he was Japanese.
Yeah, and he looks so bad.
He just looked like an ugly Sean Connery.
Which is crazy because the fake nipple at least looks somewhat realistic, but they can't do realistic Asian makeup on Sean Connery.
I wish they had played it up like they played it up in A Man with the Golden Gun, where everybody knew that it was Bond just being like in disguise. I wish that they all like knew this was a British man in disguise instead of like just this is how stupid these people are. Like that seemed like what the movie was trying to say is like, see how dumb they are? They think he's a real like one of them.
The movie is so bonkers.
There were a lot of problems, Sean. There were a lot of problems. We could do a whole episode on problems in the James Bond films, but
too many to count.
Too many. I want to ship out an honorable mention real quick.
Yes, please do.
My girl Domino from Thunderball, who gets told straight up that her brother dies after Bond, has his fun with her. Problematic, but it happens. And also kills a henchman and saves Bond's life.
True.
Something cool that she does.
She contributed.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
All right, I liked Vesper a lot from Casino.
Vesper was...
Vesper Lynn.
Eva Green was fine, but I got burned out on her because I kept mentioning her for like 4 more movies. They wouldn't let it go.
Yeah, that's true.
I know her more by her name than by the character she played because they said her name more than anything else.
But for me, I think I find the romance between Bond and Vesper the most believable.
Of all of them?
Of all of them.
No.
Even more so than On Her Majesty's. Because On Her Majesty's, Sean...
No, that I agree with you isn't number 1.
Yeah, On Her Majesty's, they go from I'm courting her for her dad's knowledge... They go straight from that to, oh, we're in love. And we know we're in love because we had this whole montage where we walk through the garden and feed horses and shit. And that's how you know that we're in love. But with Bond and Vesper, it is truly a romantic relationship that somehow grows throughout the movie. And then in the end, she's playing him and dies. Yeah. I love that. I think she's awesome.
Matt, if I told you what Bond girl I thought had the best chemistry with her Bond, you would hang up right now and walk away. So maybe I shouldn't say anything.
Say it.
Wei Lin.
You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
I thought they had great chemistry.
You were so wrong.
And I know you disagree.
I don't think you could be more wrong about that.
All right.
I know it's your opinion, but I think you're
it's a bad
wrong.
Opinion. Yeah, okay.
There is no chemistry
There's
between
great
them.
chemistry.
As a matter of fact, I think that was probably the biggest problem is that there was zero chemistry between them.
There's so many worse Bond
I could
girls.
back you up if you wanted to say that Wei Lin was a good, strong Bond girl. I would back you up on that.
And
she does kung fu. She beats the henchmen up, but there was zero chemistry. I think they tried to force the chemistry to happen, and it didn't need to be there.
I thought there was plenty of chemistry. But whatever. We've got to move on, Matt, in the interest of time.
We do.
No one wants to hear us argue this. Matt, we got to talk about the theme songs. Bond movies known for their theme songs. 3 movies didn't have theme songs, by the way.
Okay. You want me to name them?
It's not hard. Go ahead.
You're just gonna say Dr. No.
Yeah.
Which had sort of the Three Blind Mice, but it wasn't like a Bond theme song. No. You're right. It wasn't a theme song. From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
This should be easier. On Her
Yeah,
Majesty's?
On Her Majesty's. Technically, it
Okay.
has "We Have All the Time in the World" by Louis
All the,
Armstrong, but it's not used as the theme. It's used during the movie.
right. It's a big
It's the biggest
song
song
in
in
the
the
movie.
movie. Yeah,
Right. But the
not
how does
really a
that
theme.
movie open? It just doesn't have a theme song? It
I
just
think they
keeps going?
just use. Um, okay, I'm reading the Wikipedia now. Apparently, they actually did compose a theme, and they just didn't like it and didn't use it.
Okay.
So,
I mean, there's a Beach Boys song in
oh god,
Spy Who Loved Me?
talk about another
The
weird
skiing?
movie
Yeah.
moment. Matt, I've gone ahead and ranked all 21 songs in the Bond cinematic universe. Would you like to start, or should I start? I think I get to start this
Yeah,
one.
this is your turn now.
We'll start at the bottom. Here you go. Your bottom 5 songs. Coming in at number 5. It is "For Your Eyes Only," Sheena Easton. Which I think has a great chorus. For your eyes only. I actually think that's pretty good, but everything outside of the chorus is terrible. It's not a good song. Number 4, "The Man with the Golden Gun" by Lulu.
Oh, okay. So that one's my lead. That was my worst.
See, I think there are 3 that are worse than that.
Okay. Okay.
Number 3, "Tomorrow Never Dies," Sheryl Crow.
That was pretty bad too. I have that on my bottom 3. Mhm.
I have a feeling we'll agree on most of these. Number 2, "Die Another Day," Madonna.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my bottom 3 right there.
Another day, another. And what's great, there's in that song. So I've been listening to all these songs. I downloaded them all, and I've been listening to them to get in the Bond mood. And what's great about that song is at one point in the middle of the song, like the first third of the song, she just says for no reason, "Sigmund Freud," and then like the song just continues. It's not good in like
Really?
any way.
Sigmund Freud?
It's shockingly not good.
I remember there was a ton of fun fact. There was a ton of controversy when that song was released. I think it's this song because in the music video, not in the Bond film, but in the music video, Madonna like throws a grenade
Yeah.
and it lands on the president's lap, and the president at the time was George W. Bush, and people went nuts and thought it was like awful. And very wildly, she got a lot of flack for that. It was right around 9/11, so there was still a lot of, like, the heavy patriotism and that stuff. I think it's a terrible song, and I think the fact that it matches up with a torture scene, like the opening sequence is Bond getting tortured.
It's one of the
in North
worst
Korean
opening
prison.
sequences.
And there's like this
Another day.
like disco song.
Well,
Terrible.
Matt, I'm going to blow your mind. This is a genuine blow your mind fun fact. This song, "Die Another Day," was the top selling dance song in the US for both 2002 and 2003.
Yes, I do remember it being insanely
It peaked
popular.
at number
that
8 on
little
the US
period.
Billboard Hot 100.
Yeah. It was one of the most successful Bond themes,
Yes.
which is a tragedy, really.
It's very bad. But believe it or not, Matt, I think there's one song that's even worse than that.
Oh, yeah? What song was that? You Only Live Twice?
No, "You Only Live Twice" is 14th on my list.
Okay. What are you going to say?
Sam Smith's "Writings on the Wall." I hate that song because it's bland. At least "Die Another Day" is catchy. At least "Man with the Golden Gun" is interesting. At least "For Your Eyes Only" has a hook. "Writings on the Wall" is wallpaper.
I'm trying to think of how that one goes. You want to...
The writings on the wall. I can't do it. I can't do
What
it.
movie
That's
was
Spectre.
that in?
That's the latest one. That was and it won the damn Oscar.
Oh, it did. Terrible. Very forgettable. See, I already forgot.
It's honestly, that's its biggest sin. It's not that I'm not going to say it's truly terrible, but it's just not a good song.
Sam
It's
Smith.
forgettable. I genuinely don't like it.
Yeah.
I would listen to "Die Another Day" 100 times before I'd listen to "Writings on the Wall" because at least it's catchy.
So you would say that was the worst. Your
I
worst.
think to me that's absolutely the worst.
Yeah.
And that was
all right.
not
I think we
a hard
generally
choice.
agree.
I think we did.
yeah, I wouldn't reiterate
I think the
my
top is
bond.
where we might disagree a little bit more, Matt. What are your top couple?
Ooh, there's so many. In no particular order until we get to my very favorite. Um, Honorable mention goes to A View to a Kill, which I know has got to be in your top three probably.
Would you believe that's my seventh?
Duran Duran? No, I wouldn't. I would say Sean Jennings. The Sean Jennings that I know would put
I love that song.
Duran Duran, A View to a Kill as like number two.
I love that song, but nope, that's number
Mhm.
seven. There's
All
some
right,
really good songs in this list,
that's up
genuinely.
there. Um, from the older Bond movies, Live and Let Die, Paul McCartney, Wings, I would say is in the top five.
Number nine for me. I think it's a little overrated. I think if it were not done by, if it were the exact same song but didn't have Paul McCartney next to it, I don't think it would be as liked as it is. I
If
really
it
do
was like
feel
some
that.
no name or
Yeah,
like
with the exact same
yeah.
song, because I think it's just kind of good, not great in terms of Bond songs. But I get where you're going.
I like it. I love the opening sequence with the skull.
Oh
I think
sure.
it's a really neat opening sequence, and
Yeah.
it ties in with the movie.
Hmm.
And I like the string. I like the like diversity of it. You got the
Oh
strings
yeah, it
and
mixes all
the
around. Sure.
horns, and yeah. So I would say that's up there for me. Um, my two favorites, and it's so hard, but I have to pick one here for a Bond opening. I really, really enjoy. They're the two Daniel Craig movies, Adele's Skyfall
Number two for me.
and and gosh, if I actually like all three a
Oh,
lot.
don't
I
make
like Jack White.
don't make
Not
the
my
wrong
favorite.
decision here. One of these two
Casino
songs
Royale.
is clearly better than the other.
I am 100% going with um
You Know My Name.
You Know My Name. Thank you. You Know My Name,
Chris
Casino
Cornell.
Royale by Chris Cornell.
That's my number
Love it.
five, and I think the
I would say
best
that's my
of the
favorite.
Craigs.
Mm-hmm.
Another Way to
That's
Die
my
goes
favorite.
all the way to 13 for me. I just, it has potential, and the first bit is good, but then as soon as you break into like the weird guitar solos and Alicia Keys like weirdly moaning in the middle, and
All
it's
right,
just over.
it's got the best kick. I think it's got the
Yeah,
best open of
it's
a Bond
unique.
Bond
It's interesting.
thing. Yeah. The opening sequence was terrible though. I hated
Oh
the
yeah, no, that's not a good one. No. No, You Know My Name is. When I first heard that, when I first saw Casino Royale, I didn't really care for it. And then as we did the shows, you were really talking it up. So I'm like, I'm really gonna listen to this a couple times to get into it. It's really good.
Yeah,
It's
as a
really
song
good.
that might be my favorite Bond theme.
It's
You Know My
really
Name
good.
by Chris Cornell. Yes. That's what I'm going to say is my favorite. Skyfall would be close behind it. I'd
Yep.
put it at 2. Third, if I had to go with third, I would probably go A View to a Kill because I think it really fits the time period very well
Sure.
and it fits the movie really well. Oh, how could I forget? All right, I'm bumping View to a Kill down to fourth, and third, I'm going to put Nobody Does It Better.
That's my number three.
Yeah,
That's a
wow,
great
sweet.
jam. That's
Good.
a
We've got
great.
the-
Carly Simon
yeah.
is so good on that track.
Nobody Does It Better. The theme song to
Spy Who Loved Me.
Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other
And
ones.
that's my top. And then 5, I guess I would put 5. I would throw in hey, Goldfinger's pretty good. I don't know if I would put it in my top 5 though, but it's pretty good. Who's that? Is that that's not Nancy?
No, Shirley Bassey.
Shirley Bassey. Nancy Sinatra does You Only Live Twice.
Yeah.
Right? Which is not great.
It's fine.
It's in the middle somewhere.
I've got that at 14.
Bottom
of
middle.
21. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, all right. So we've got. I thought I had 5.
Yeah, you had 5. You
Live
named
and Let
5.
Die. And Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney.
Yeah,
That's
you named
5.
your 5.
That's my top.
Yeah, Matt. Ones that were in my top that you didn't mention. At number 4, "The Living Daylights" by Aha. I think that's a better song than "A View to a Kill." Honestly, I
It's a
really
little
do.
boring. I thought it was a little flat.
But I think it's more Bondian. I think it better. "A View to a Kill" is a good pop song. I feel like "Living Daylights" hits better with that movie, with Bond overall. But I think they're both great. I'll say that. That's the one. If you like on this list of the one I've listened to the most, it might be The Living Daylights. That's just me. I like that song. I would also say Goldfinger. I put as number one in my list. Partly because it's iconic, partly because Shirley Bassey is amazing on that track. But the issues I have is I think that Shirley Bassey, who did 3, I think Diamonds Are Forever may be a better song than Goldfinger. I think she performs better in Goldfinger. I like Diamonds Are Forever. That's got a good beat. It's got a good hook. It's catchy, and I like it. So that one's credit. And then I don't think we talked enough about Skyfall as well, which I actually have at number 2. I think that's the best Bond theme song. It fits Bond to a T. I don't know how you can get a better Bond-related song than Skyfall. It oozes Bond, which I really like. And I would love to see Adele, like Shirley Bassey, coming back for a couple. I'd love to see Adele come back and do another theme. I think that'd be great.
Yeah. I also like the lyrics for Skyfall.
Yep.
Because it's got a lot to do with, this is the end. It's the end of the, like, kind of that trilogy, the early Craig trilogy. It also talks about it just fits the feeling and the theme so well, especially the horn kick in the very beginning.
Yep.
Like right as soon as Bond hits in the water and he's sinking after he gets shot. It's all around. It is truly a tremendous Bond theme.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of a compliment to You Know My Name, because You Know My Name is all like jumpy and actiony and you just picture Bond like running through like a training course or like running through like all his missions, like as he achieves 00 status while this is going on. And the lyrics to that one referencing a lot of the casino themes that are in the movie, like Life Is Gone with Just the Spin of a Wheel, Arm Yourself, No One Else Here Will Save You.
Yep.
And something about the house. He talks about like the house will betray you, and no, the house will replace you, right? Yeah.
I don't
like,
remember.
Yeah, the house will replace, like the casino. Again, it's great. I like when the song ties in directly with the plot of the movie.
Yeah,
It's,
many
and
of these
the
don't,
opening
which
sequence.
is a shame. Yeah, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Matt. Well,
so I think we pretty much agreed a lot on our
I
themes.
think it's clear which are good and which
good.
are bad. I think there might be more controversy in the middle, but I think the top and bottom are pretty clear. And I would say the majority of them are really good songs.
Yeah. Yeah, except for Madonna. I think I want to throw an honorable mention to. Yeah. I thought it was fine. Was Garbage. Garbage is The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah, that's in my bottom half.
Throw an honorable mention in there.
If
Not
we're doing,
the best, but
if we're doing honorable mentions, then I'm going to throw in License to Kill by Gladys Knight. I think that's a good track.
Okay. Yeah, but that's
They're
not even fair because it's Gladys Knight.
Well, I know, but it's like Tina Turner and Goldeneye, I think, is a pretty good track.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you look at this list of artists. Tom Jones, who we didn't really talk about, and some of these other, Rita Coolidge, who's somewhat forgettable, but so was Octopussy, so whatever. Matt, let's move on in the interest of time. We still have to talk about the movies and ultimately rank the Bonds, which I'm very excited about. Let's talk about the movies, top and bottom. 24 movies here to choose from. Some of them good, some of them not as much. Do you want to start or you want me to start?
I think you started last time, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll go ahead. I'll start with my least favorite Bond movies.
Yeah.
I've kind of been referencing it all time, like in error, all through this time. But I think my least favorite is probably Octopussy.
That was my least favorite.
Probably my least favorite.
I think that's the only time we've agreed all night on the.
Yeah.
That was a weak as hell.
I'd say that was
movie.
my bottom one. Weak and forgettable villains, a terrible villain plot. It was so campy. It was like
that was the
point. it was the saturation point on the camp had kind of hit
They had
its
to pull it back.
maximum.
When the moment in that movie when he goes up to the snake charmer and the snake charmer starts playing the James Bond theme in the movie, I'm like, too
Yeah.
much. Shut it down. This is
And then
not
he
okay.
he has the alligator suit.
Oh my god,
Where
yes.
he's,
In the alligator.
yeah, it was too much. It
Yeah,
was too much with
that
the
was
camp.
not good at all. No,
And
I'm totally
and I
with you.
felt like every time Bond spoke in that movie, it was a quip. It was a every like line of dialogue was some kind of quip.
And I think that's why it's not memorable, because he doesn't really do anything in the movie. Even the
No,
stunts weren't
kind of
memorable.
he moves through the plot, quipping the whole
Is that the
time.
one where he shows up at the end in the hot air balloon
Yes.
out of
Yep.
nowhere, totally negating the awesome female-led ending?
That is it. Yes.
That
Mhm.
movie, man,
Terrible.
not good.
Terrible. My least favorite for sure.
Agreed,
Also
100%.
on the bottom, toward the bottom of the barrel, is Man with the Golden Gun.
Okay, that was my
Which I
19.
think is kind of a shame because I think that Christopher Lee does such a great job in this movie.
I don't agree with that.
I think he was awesome. I thought he played a great villain. I just didn't think he got enough screen time, to be honest. I didn't think he got enough screen time to I thought the villain was poorly written and bad, but I thought that Christopher Lee did a great job in the role. Thought he was acting his heart out like he always does.
Well, yeah, but yeah, you're right. The movie let him down. It wasn't a
Yes.
well plotted movie.
No, it was not. And so my third from the bottom. It's got to be Die Another Day. Die Another Day.
I
Terrible.
have that just below Man with the Golden Gun, but yes.
Terrible. Just
Again, another all quips,
a movie
all
that-
jokes movie.
and I thought it was a movie that had a severe identity crisis. It didn't know what it wanted to be. Like it starts off being really dark and really Bond is captured and tortured for, was it 12 months? Like
Yeah,
how
something
many?
like that. Is 14
He gets
months something
for
like
a
that?
long
Yeah.
time. Yeah, like over a year. And then all of a sudden he's in the hospital and his heart is shutting down, but then it turns out that he like shaves and he's okay. And he's just back to being Bond. Like
And then
that's regular day in the life.
And then the whole second half of the movie is Halle Berry throwing quips. You've got DNA changing and invisible cars and ice palaces and space lasers and
Oh, talk about a
electric
confusing
suit.
plot. Yeah.
I literally, I talked about this on the show last week, or 2 weeks ago. I didn't understand the plot for years until I rewatched it recently. Like I still was confused.
Yes.
So, not a
that
good
should have
movie.
been that. We should have talked about that being a confusing
Oof,
mess.
hard to watch.
But yeah. So those are my bottom three. We
Okay.
got Octopussy. We've got
Man with the Golden Gun and
Man
Die
with the
Another
Golden
Day.
Gun, and we got Die Another Day. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it or not, I have 3 movies I consider better than Octopussy, but worse than Die Another Day.
Yeah.
One of those is Spectre, which, again, what I like about Die Another Day is at least it's visually interesting. You know, at least stuff happens. What I don't like are the boring Bond movies. Spectre to me is a boring Bond movie. I have View to a Kill as well towards the bottom here. Again, another movie where nothing interesting really happens. And I have Live and Let Die down there as well, which I guess kind of has the opposite problem where too much stuff happens and it's just a little too out there zany for me. We prove magic is real. We've got voodoo doctors. We've got blaxploitation. We've got all this kind of crazy heroin dealing, Mr. Big, Doctor. It's just too much.
We've
It's
got
just too
Sergeant.
much.
I want to call him Sergeant Pepper, but no, he's not.
Sergeant Pepper. No, you're thinking of Sheriff J.W. Pepper.
Sheriff J.W. Pepper. Right?
Yeah, we've got him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that movie has big problems. That's in my bottom as well. So I think we're kind of in agreement on a lot of this.
Yeah. What are we gonna say about the top? Our favorite Bond films.
Oh boy, this is gonna be tough. I'll start. I'll give you my top 5 here. Okay.
Go for it. Okay.
And you jump in here at any point. Number 5.
Yep.
You're gonna hate me for this. Number 5. Diamonds Are Forever. Okay, here's the thing about the movie. I want to be crystal clear. That is the good kind of bonkers James Bond movie, okay? And that's why it's the only sort of bonkers one to be this high up on my list. Because I think the Vegas stuff is really good. I think when The moment when Bond breaks into the research facility, steals a moon buggy, drives it through a fake moon set, and then across the desert is so insane. I think Jimmy Dean is really good in this. I think Blofeld is interesting. It's just the good kind of zany Bond film, which I like about it. So I'm going to give props to Diamonds Are Forever. I know you disagree, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't make it 1. I made it number
No,
5.
you're entitled to be wrong. It's okay.
Okay.
Sean Connery was this was probably his worst Bond movie.
Oh.
Like I think it was his worst performance in a Bond film. I think it's pretty safe to say. Worst performance in a Bond film. Even in Dr. No, I think he was like figuring out the character as he went along, but I thought he was still better.
I might challenge From Russia with Love.
He mailed it in. No.
I don't think he was that great in that.
I think he mailed it in. He looked old, and he looked like he didn't want to do this anymore.
But
he looked shot. He looked retired.
Well, no, that's never say never again.
He looked like he was going to retire. Like he was like
well, he
already
only came
retired.
back for the money. But I still think it's an exciting movie.
I thought he did even better in Never Say Never Again, because I think it was more about like acknowledging him being old than like trying to pretend like he wasn't.
I think there's so much fun stuff happening in that movie that's not Bond. It makes up for it. But anyway, I digress. Number 4, License to Kill.
Okay, I agree with that one. That's probably falls exactly.
It's unique. It's exciting. Number 3, Casino Royale.
I thought you didn't care for that one.
You know, this rewatch has really turned me around. I think it does have some major flaws, but like License to Kill, I like the unique Bond films, right? Diamonds does its own thing. License to Kill does its own thing. Casino Royale does its own thing. That's what I like about these.
Okay.
You know, the more bland one, when you look at like, especially the Brosnan ones, which no slight to him, but they're just bland movies.
Yeah, I liked them so much more before I did this watch through. And they're the ones that seem like the most of a chore to get through, unfortunately.
Oof. Yes, Die Another Day. Tomorrow Never Dies. It's some of these. It's like, geez, they're not interesting. My number 2, For Your Eyes Only.
Oh, okay. That's your number 2.
That's my number 2. I think that's Moore's best performance is in that movie. I think the Bond girl is very good in the movie. Different. It's a different Bond movie because it's not a lot of gadgets. It's got the double cross where the guy you think the villain isn't actually the villain. I could not turn that movie off. I thought it was really great. So that's number 2 for me. And then my number 1, drum roll please, Matt. Let's say at the same time what our number 1 is.
Really?
Yes. Do you know?
It's so hard to. It's like choosing. It's like choosing a child. Really.
I know, but you have to pick.
We're gonna say them at the same time.
We're gonna say them at the same time. Are you ready?
Okay.
1,
ready.
2, 3.
Goldfinger.
Hey!
No way. There's no way. No, we picked the same movie.
That's why I wanted to do that. I had a feeling we were going the same direction. Yes, I think that is the most Bond movie of all the Bond movies. Like, if you had to pick one Bond movie that is the most Bond movie, I think you pick Goldfinger. I think it set the template for the rest of the franchise. I think from Pussy Galore to Goldfinger himself to Sean Connery and everywhere in between, it just works from top to bottom. There's no point where you're bored. There's no point where it's slow. It's good stunts. It's good acting. I just think it's all around the most solid movie.
Right. I couldn't agree more. It's the gold standard.
Yes.
Goldfinger is the gold standard for Bond movies because it's and I think every other movie since then has kind of been reaching to get to where Goldfinger is it's in the culture as the Bond film.
Yep.
The iconic Bond film. And I think it will always be that way. Sean, I want to go with some of my top 5.
Yes, please.
A number 5, you see, this is where my pick is definitely not gonna line up with yours. And we're gonna disagree on this one, but top 5, like number 5, I would say GoldenEye. GoldenEye was in my top 5 because it was, maybe it's just a personal connection with it, but it was one of the first Bond movies I remember watching. It got me into the franchise really more so. Goldfinger was probably the first one that I saw, but back then I was so young. It was like, this is just an old movie. GoldenEye was like an updated, like new take on Bond, and I liked that. I thought Pierce Brosnan did a really good job in the role. He was kind of like, he just seems like he was made to play Bond.
It's his best. It's his best of his.
It is his. I agree that it is his best in the franchise in the series. So number 5 is GoldenEye. Sean Bean's performance as Trevelyan is excellent.
Great. No, and even Alan Cummings, I would say for me it's a top 10. I don't know if I would go top 5, but I agree with you. I do think it's a solid all around. It's a good, of that era. There are a lot of bad movies. I think that's one of the better ones.
Yeah. Number 4, I would probably say. I got to make sure I leave room here now. All right, coming in at number 4, I'm gonna say that's my For Your Eyes Only.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it at number 4. Love the plot, love the twist. Like for every reason that you mentioned, I think it has one of the best Q moments in the movie where he's in the one of the monks in the monastery. And it has a great. And I agree with you that it is Moore's best performance, I think, in the role.
Yes.
Kind of unmatched. I love the low emphasis on technology. The fact that it gets completely subverted in the beginning of the movie when the car gets wrecked, and it's like Bond just has to use his wits, and it's like very much a return to form for Bond. Love it. Number 3 would be License to Kill.
Okay.
I like the Bond vengeance. The villain is so dark and terrifying, and can I do like a 2.5?
You can do whatever you want.
I'm gonna squeeze in a 2.5.
Cram them in there. Get them in there.
Cramming them into the top. Because I knew I was gonna not leave room, and now here we are. But I'm gonna put in that little 2.5 space. I'm gonna put Skyfall.
Okay. Skyfall was my 6. It fell just outside my top 5.
I love Skyfall. I mean, I could probably take out License to Kill and put Skyfall in 3rd, and I would be fine with that.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Loved the drama of the movie, the vulnerability of Bond, and the sign off of M. Was a great. It was just a great culminate, and the villain and the villain who was the villain? Javier Bardem.
Yeah.
Was Javier Bardem.
Yeah.
Great villain.
As I said last week, I can't think of another example of a franchise setting up and knocking down a reboot so perfectly.
I totally agree. I just, yeah, other movies should take notes from this. Like yes. other reboots that are in the works. This is like the way to do it. Coming in at number 2 has got to be Casino Royale.
Okay, yeah.
I love Casino Royale, even though the villain's plot is a little weak, like we mentioned. I think it's Craig's first. I don't think it's his best. I think Skyfall was probably his best, but I think the writing in this movie is so good. It's so damn good. And it's
shot very well too, by the way. I think of a lot of for me, that's like top 3 in terms of the directing and the cinematography as well. The stunts are very good. It hits a lot of those elements.
Probably the best opening, the best pre-sequence opening of a Bond film. The way everything is staged and set up, where it subverts your expectations with the no gun barrel, to the eventual gun barrel right before it sets everything up, and it ends so great. The ending is so nice too, in that it establishes the James Bond and the Bond theme that hasn't been used through the entire movie, right? And it's used in the credits.
Yep. I
just think it was great. It was a really, really tremendous movie. It's too bad that it had to be followed by Quantum of Solace, which was a giant waste of time, which it was so forgettable, Sean. I didn't even put it in my worst Bond movies because I forgot about it. I thought it was even worse than Spectre, but because it felt more like just a continuation of Casino Royale. Like it could have just been tacked on to the end, but it would have ruined Casino Royale by doing that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, but then again, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt because it was when the writer's strike was happening.
Yeah, it's maybe not that movie's fault. It's as crappy as it is.
Yeah.
Well, man, I'm glad we're pretty much in agreement.
Yeah.
Maybe we're off a couple spaces here and there. I'm fascinated. Our next ranking is our final ranking. We're going to rank the Bond actors, but I'm curious that you had 2 Daniel Craig movies in your top 3.
I did. I think he's a good Bond. I do. I like him. The blonde Bond.
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
Matt, we have got to rank the 6 actors who have played James Bond. I have a feeling this is going to be the most controversial ranking of the night, and I know for a fact you will hate mine.
Yes,
You've been warned.
I probably will. I already know because I already know what's gonna happen. I know how this is gonna go.
Okay.
I've read the script.
Go ahead and predict it. Go ahead right now.
Sean, you're gonna say that Timothy Dalton is the best James Bond.
I'm
not
you? That big of an idiot. Give me. Come on, Matt. You've known me for how long? Almost a decade, if you can believe it.
It's true.
Give me a little bit of credit that I wouldn't do that. I think he's an amazing Bond, and actually, if it wasn't like me worried about being embarrassed, I almost might have. He would have been higher on my list if I didn't feel self-conscious.
You're not actually going to say that you think that Roger Moore was the best James Bond.
No, Matt, George Lazenby is the best.
No, come
Bond.
on. I was so hoping you weren't going to go there.
No, I'm not going to. Matt, do you want me to do my list or you want to do yours first?
You go first.
Okay, here we go, Matt. The 6 James Bonds from worst to best. Coming in at number 6, George Lazenby. I don't blame him. He only had 1 movie. I don't think it's fair, but you can't rank him anything more than last.
You just can't.
You can't.
It's just and it's that he had 1 movie, but that doesn't. I mean, he to be fair, Sean, he had the option to be in more. He turned it down.
And hey,
they wanted to sign him on to like 6 more, and he said no. So
I think even if he had done more, I think more would have been better. I just think he's a fine guy, but I just not a very great Bond. So he's number 6. Number 5, Matt. Daniel Craig.
Oh, so here's where we get okay.
Yep, it's not getting better from here. Daniel, again, I like all of these guys. I want to be crystal clear. Even George Lazenby isn't bad. It's just you have to rank them. And for me, I just like the other guys more than Daniel Craig. He's not bad. I don't like gritty, smoky James Bond. That's just not the Bond I like. That's not my flavor of Bond.
You don't like Blue Steel Bond?
I don't. I think he's really good in his movies. I'm not going to knock him, but it's just not the Bond I gravitate towards. And I like the other ones better. My thought in doing this, Matt, and I would be curious to know your answer when we circle around to you, is if I were casting a movie today and I had my choice of any of the Bond actors at their peak, so Connery in the 60s and Moore in the 70s, and I could pick any of them to cast in a Bond movie today, who would I choose? I wouldn't choose Daniel Craig.
I think that's So that's a good argument for why he's not the best Bond.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't make that argument. I don't think he's the best Bond.
Okay, good. Well, do you
want? But I would not put him as low as you did. But okay, that's just my own taste.
And I knew you wouldn't, so that's okay. Right above Craig is Timothy Dalton.
Yep.
My man. I love Timothy. I honestly have a very big affection for Timothy Dalton. But he was only in 2 movies. You can't rank him more than the big other 3.
Yeah.
Matt, coming in at my 3rd favorite, Sean Connery. Stay with me here, okay? Wipe that surprised look off your face. Sean Connery is a great Bond. He's the original Bond and the iconic Bond. But I feel like he was a Bond of a certain era. And I feel like in his movies, he's the least plausible Bond to me. You could take any of these guys not named Sean Connery, and I could be like, yeah, okay, maybe they're really a secret spy on the weekends. Like, I could totally buy that. Sean Connery, I'm like, there's no fucking way he's working for Her Majesty's Secret Service. He's not doing it. He's a
Hollywood Bond.
He is. He's a big personality. His movies are interesting. He's just not. He's number 3. Number 2, Pierce Brosnan. To me, I think the most charming Bond, and I know people will say it's Connery, but I don't think that's true, to answer that question, if I were casting a Bond movie today, who would I cast? It would be Pierce Brosnan. I think he was let down by the scripts and directors of his movies, and I think he has the most universal ongoing appeal. He's the most charming, I think, of the Bonds, and I think he played his movies well. The movies let him down, not the other way around. And my number one, you guessed it, Matt, it is Moore. It is Roger Moore. He is, to me, the iconic Bond in like a Moonraker, You Only Live Twice. I keep mixing those up because they sound so damn similar. For Your Eyes Only. Moonraker and For Your Eyes Only, those sort of back-to-back. He's very good in those. A little bit quippy, a little bit flirty, all around Bond. That is my ranking. Roger Moore is my number one Bond, Matt. Now, please tell me how wrong I am.
Well, you got one of them right. And that's Lazenby being last. That's literally the only one that I would agree with you.
Okay.
We have to put him last. Again,
It's
he
the
only
rules.
got one movie. It just makes sense. Sean, you committed a cardinal sin when you put Connery as anything but first. Connery's got to be first on the list.
I really
He just has
disagree.
to be.
I really disagree.
He has to be.
I don't think he has to be.
You cannot say that Pierce Brosnan was a better Bond than the man who is Bond. He's literally
But
James Bond.
Just because he was first doesn't make him best. That's baloney. That's
Yes, it
baloney.
does.
That's like
In
saying
this
Model
case, it
T is
does.
the best car ever made.
In this case, it does. In this case, it makes it known that he's the most iconic. I think that the way that you judged the way that you determined your list, I think you tried to find the most realistic Bond. Like you tried to find
No.
the actor who would fit the
That's
role.
part of it, but it's the actor.
Okay.
It's the actor I enjoyed on screen the most. And believe it or not, Connery was not the guy I enjoyed watching.
So that would
the
be
most.
Roger Moore.
Yes.
You'd want to watch more.
Yes. Again, I feel like when you look
I
at
found
some
him.
of
I don't know. I thought his movies. I liked his movies. I thought his movies were some of the more interesting ones, except for the ones that weren't, like Octopussy. But as an actor, you would say you would sit and watch like dozens of this guy as Bond.
I
like
think if you
hours
take
worth.
him at his peak, yes. I agree. He was not good in some of his movies. Same with Sean Connery, by the way.
Same with all of them.
Right. They all have good and bad ones. But if you take all these actors at their peak, I think Roger Moore is a solid Bond. Again, Connery to me is an interesting actor. He's an interesting character on screen. But Bond, 4 letters, it means something. And I don't think he's the iconic Bond.
It means everything that Connery is and stands for when he's on screen. All right. So we've got very different
Yeah,
opinions.
keep going. I want to hear your full list.
I've got Connery at first. I'll just work down.
Yeah.
We got Lazenby last, so
Yeah.
we got to just kind of fill in the gaps here. So in 5th, right above Lazenby, that's actually where I would put Roger Moore for my list.
Oh, okay, hang on.
Hang on. I'm going to put him 5th.
I totally understand you not putting him first. That's so fair. I will never criticize anyone for saying Sean Connery is the best Bond. Because I get the argument. I don't agree with it. I totally understand it. But you cannot say Roger Moore is right above. You're saying
I'm going to say
crazy.
I'm going to say that he's in 5th because I think that he just his Bond was like the quirkiest, like the goofiest
Yes, that's great.
of all of them. But I don't think that that's really like he brought like some kind of weird humor into the Bond role that I think wasn't there before. Like Connery, when he was humorous, he was like he did it in a debonair and extremely charming way.
Moore was more flippant about stuff because he would kind of just throw off the jokes.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I can't believe that just happened. Like that kind of...
Yeah, he played it. I think he played it for yucks a lot.
Yeah.
And because he took part in Octopussy, I think that's got to like.
But again, is he bad
earn
in
him some negative
Octopussy?
points.
I think he's worse in A
Yes.
View to a Kill, frankly.
I think he mails it in. I think he mails it in both of those roles. I think
Yeah,
those
but
are
so
two
did
of his
Sean
worst.
Connery in Diamonds Are Forever. It's not a
Yes,
crime.
Diamonds Are Forever was bad. It was a bad
But
role for him.
that, to be
He was
honest,
getting old. He was
this
aging.
this is why I like Pierce Brosnan, because I think Pierce Brosnan does the best job of navigating both charming and funny.
Right. I actually have Brosnan. You might surprise you.
Okay,
I
well,
have him
keep
up pretty
going. So
high.
we've got from the bottom Lazenby, Moore.
More than Dalton.
Okay.
Dalton. I think he was a good. I think he got kind of shafted by only having 2 movies. If he had done more, I think if he had gotten the third movie seems to be where they really hit their stride. He was a very realistic Bond. I really did believe like this guy could be an assassin.
Yep, 100%.
But he was the opposite of Moore in that I think he was too serious. He was just too self-serious and too gritty, too like loathing and brooding. And Craig, you're gonna say Craig was too, but Craig, when he was loathing and brooding, like he I think could also use humor to like take it out on people. Whereas like when they wrote jokes for Dalton, I think he didn't really read them as jokes. They were just like things. I gotta say this.
Yeah, I guess. I think the reason the jokes work so well for Craig is because he tells so few of them, and I think that was, I agree, an issue with Roger Moore was too many jokes. They got tiring. But I do think Timothy, again, it's like different levels, right? On the humor scale, I think Timothy Dalton is below Craig, above the other guys. But I agree. No, I'm with you where Dalton's at. All right, who's above Dalton?
Above Dalton, that's where I'm gonna put Craig.
Okay.
That's where I'm gonna put Craig at number 3.
Okay.
Really like him a lot as a Bond, but I don't think he has the same charm as the man I put at number 2, which is Pierce Brosnan.
100%. I don't think any Bond has. I would argue Brosnan has more charm than Connery. It's different charm, but I think it's a more universal charm.
When it comes down to it, Craig has the air of like, if this wasn't if we were ranking just actors playing agents, playing like the best action actors, I would say Craig would be number 1 on this list.
Yeah.
Best if the Bond name was not attached at all. I think he is like the best, like Jack Bauer.
Yep. 100%. Born
Identity type guy to play, and that was like really the movies he was in. He's also really got the drama of his movies down, the very dramatic and high stakes and just like dripping with like sadness and smokiness and stuff. So he's got that down. But Pierce Brosnan is like more refined. He's like a refined agent on Her Majesty's Secret Service, basically.
Yeah.
And he checks all the boxes. He's suave, he's sophisticated, he's funny, he's charming, but he also kicks ass, and he also it navigates the waters so easily that I think he deserves number 2.
Yep.
For me, Connery is number 1 just because he has to be number 1. He has to be. Like, just like Goldfinger has to be the best Bond movie, I don't see how you put Connery as anything lower than 1 on this list.
I don't think that's fair.
He's got to be number 1.
I don't think that's fair. I don't, because each of these guys brings so much different to their roles. And again, it's how you look at this list, right? Because we could rank them using 100 different metrics. My list was my favorite. Moore's my favorite. Is he the best actor to play Bond? No, I don't think so. But he's the one I enjoyed watching the most because that's the style, and I liked his movies the most. That's just the style I like. I still stand by, though, if you were casting a movie today, you put Pierce Brosnan in it. I think he's the most universally accessible Bond who balances all the different aspects you need. He's good at being serious. He's good at being charming. He's good at being funny. It's a shame he got such shitty movies because I think he, for me, is the most universal Bond, period.
Imagine him in License to Kill.
He could have been so good in a lot of these movies.
Yeah. He would have killed it. He had the chance too, but he was in
Remington Steele.
He was involved in Remington Steele, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. He would have been so good in
I mean,
that
he's
role.
great in GoldenEye. He's so good in that.
Would have been so good. He
But
is.
it was just a bad era for Bond.
And then
Period.
that would put Tomorrow as his like third movie, which would have been his Stride. That's the Stride movie where you hit your stride.
I still
Although
think he
for
was
him,
pretty
he
good
really,
in
I
that.
think he really kind of peaked in GoldenEye. But
Tomorrow, I thought he was good in, and then I thought like The World's Not Enough. He was okay, and then In Die Another Day. That movie just had so many problems. He kind of got lost in the shuffle.
he did. But that's our rankings.
That is our rankings, man.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Sean,
Oh,
for being along for the ride, and all of our listeners out there who went on this 007 adventure with us today.
it's been so terrific, Matt. Please don't ever make me watch 25 movies again. You did a+ job of picking this as a topic. It was so fun for me to watch these movies change. It's one of the few franchises that has been around long enough and changed so much over time. Other than the word Bond, you're changing actors, you're changing music, you're changing characters, you're changing plots, you're changing styles. There's so much variety in these movies. It was a pleasure to sit through and watch all of them and watch them change over time. Something you miss when you see them in the years they came out, and being able to watch them all in sequence was really fascinating. So this was great, a great experience.
Yeah, maybe next week we'll get to talking about Bond 25.
I don't know. What are we doing next week, Matt?
I figured we could talk about Bond 25.
Okay, well we're gonna be back next week with more Bond, if you can believe
Yeah.
it.
Maybe we won't devote the whole episode to it. Maybe we'll just like
Touch
do
on
some
it.
talking points, touch on it. Maybe we can also talk on our other topic that we deign to be experts in, the XFL. Maybe we can give a little XFL.
A little presents update.
Yeah. Maybe we could just kind of like
future.
meld the two.
Yeah, we'll come up with
Up
something.
for Bond, up for Bond FL. Up for XFL.
The Bond Football League,
Yeah.
X Bond. That sounds like extreme deodorant.
This is Bond, James Bond. Imagine, I think
yeah.
how did they never get Vince McMahon to be a villain in a Bond movie?
Oh, he'd be great. What was it? Dolph Lundgren is in the background, is like a background villain in one of the movies.
Is he?
Because he was dating the Bond girl in whatever movie that was at the time. And he was just like on set hanging out. And they're like, oh, you want to be in the background of the shot? And he's like, sure. And he's just like standing there, not doing anything.
Imagine Jesse the Body Ventura. He could be like the other villain.
Yeah, he's gone a little too. Although, hey, credit where credit's due. Dave Bautista in Spectre,
Yeah.
the MMA guy.
Yeah, true. That's true.
Close. Anyhow, Matt, we're going to wrap it up here because, God, we have just talked too long this evening, and both of us have work in the morning. Thanks to you, man. Thanks, everyone out there, for being here. Another great time.